Tractatus Aureus, the Golden Treatise. Physicists write this art through riddles alone, that he may remain in his own little knowledge, but the secrets of the beast are to be thrown to the dogs. Nor is it useful to have a dark, bright twin of his. Books are witnesses of art. They reveal secrets God alone directs the stars of heaven. Note to reader, this tract starts at the number 6. It does not appear that the first 5 are missing, yet we cannot explain the reasoning of the original anonymous author for this peculiarity in the text. 6. Cimici tantum filius sui scribunt. Scribunt in doctus, quamata passim versicici. Cimici sed soboliace sibi. Permittumque Deo sua munera distribuendaci renes hominum cordaci oncta proba. 6. Chemists only write to their sons. They write everywhere to the uneducated, the educated poets, but chemists only to their offspring and to themselves. And they allow God to distribute their gifts who examines the kidneys of men and all hearts. This passage seems to be an allegorical reflection on the nature of knowledge transfer, particularly in the field of chemistry. It suggests that chemists, representing experts or those who possess deep knowledge in a particular field, primarily share their knowledge with their direct descendants, either literal offspring or metaphorical successors in the same field of study. They write to all, both educated and uneducated and even poets, but the deep knowledge, the essence of their work, is transmitted particularly to their offspring, again, either literal or metaphorical, and to themselves. The last line refers to the divine, here represented as God, suggesting that the distribution of these gifts, knowledge, or skills is ultimately not entirely within human control. The reference to God examining the kidneys of men and all hearts is likely a metaphor for discerning the true character and worthiness of individuals. The implication could be that the dissemination and reception of knowledge or wisdom may be influenced by divine judgment of an individual's inherent qualities or moral worthiness. CENTURIACHYMICACHEMICALCENTURY 6-7. Chimicus sit constantis animi, incurru veludi rota quaeque, volubilis erat, sic opus hoc chimicum sapius ire solet. Nam quicquid sublime, petit mox inferior quicquid, and ima petit versus ad alta reddit. Ujus and artifices vagabundusunt, vagatractant, ast ars constans apta habere viros. 7. Let the chemist be of a steady mind. Just as any wheel in a chariot erratically turns, so does this chemical work often tends to go. For whatever seeks the heights soon goes lower, and whatever seeks the depths soon returns to the heights. Both the artisans of this are wanderers, they handle wandering, but the art desires to have steady men. This passage provides an allegorical commentary on the nature of pursuing knowledge, particularly within the field of our art. It employs the metaphor of a wheel in a chariot, which constantly rotates between high and low points, to represent the cyclical and often unpredictable process of scientific discovery and experimentation. The line suggests that the pursuit of knowledge often involves moving between concepts or theories that seem elevated or sublime and those that seem more mundane or inferior. However, what initially appears low or simple can eventually lead back to profound or high insights. The passage also acknowledges that those who pursue this work, the artisans, are often wanderers, implying they are driven by curiosity, exploration, and the constant flux of the scientific process. Despite this, the text concludes by expressing a wish that the practitioners of the art, chemistry, be steady or constant, suggesting that while the pursuit of knowledge requires adaptability and a willingness to traverse intellectual highs and lows, it also requires steadiness, focus, and determination in order to yield meaningful results. Centuria Chemica, Chemical Century 7, 8. Quo interum loco materia lapidis, philosophici sit correnda continat oratum bellus Germanica tellus colcidis opus est, te penetre freedom. 8. In which place on earth should the material of the philosopher's stone be sought? The German soil contains the golden fleece, there is no need to penetrate the strait of Colchis. This passage implies a change in the traditional narrative of the alchemical pursuit. In classical mythology, the golden fleece, a symbol of authority, kingship, and potentially alchemical gold, is located in Colchis, a region on the eastern edge of the Black Sea, now in present-day Georgia. Jason and the Argonauts famously sought the golden fleece in their mythological journey. However, this passage states that one need not undertake a perilous journey like that of the Argonauts to seek the golden fleece, a metaphor for the philosopher's stone, an alchemical symbol for ultimate wisdom or the means to convert base metals into gold. Instead, it implies that the golden fleece, or the key to the transformation, can be found in German soil, suggesting the required materials for this pursuit may be present closer to home. perhaps even in commonplace elements or substances. It could also be interpreted as a commentary on the advancement of alchemical or chemical knowledge in Germany or Northern Europe relative to the ancient traditions of the Mediterranean. The message here might be that seekers of knowledge need not look far afield or rely on ancient wisdom alone, but instead, they should also value and investigate the resources and knowledge available in their immediate surroundings. Note to reader: the mythical sorceress Medea was also said to be from Colchis. In ancient times, Colchis was known for its wealth, including its abundant gold, which is likely why it was associated with the Golden Fleece in mythology. CENTURIACHYMICACHEMICALCENTURYA 9. Materia lapidis philosophici per cabbalam revelata. Materium lapidis chimici designat Adamus, toto terrarum primus in orbe reus, hunc Deus omnipotens rubra telior si, revit quam vox Hebreis significavit, Adam magnum nominis hujus aemuneris disis quater in sex, codis sacro cognitus essa, tempers haec Betia fuit edificata, olim hierosolimus altera sancta domus. Mercury simul and solis numerus tibi pandit, nomina, literulas right locer scius. Sex agentac, sex cum sexentis, caesar ordo, and numerus idem notificare potest. 9. The material of the philosopher's stone revealed through Kabbalah. Adam signifies the material of the stone for the chemists. First guilty in all the world, Almighty God created him from red earth, which the Hebrew voice signified as Adam. The great gift of his name is 4 times 10 and 6. It can be recognized in the sacred code. For in the span of time was built the other holy house in Jerusalem long ago. Both Mercury and the number of the sun revealed to you, if you know how to rightly place the names, the letters. 66 with 600, the Holy Order can notify the same in numbers. Our art is deeply entwined with mystical and religious traditions, specifically the Jewish tradition of Kabbalah. It suggests that the secret of the philosopher's stone, the ultimate goal in our art, which transforms base metals into gold and grants eternal life, is symbolized by or related to the biblical figure Adam. Adam, being the first human, is said to have been created by God from red earth. The Hebrew word Adam can mean man, red, or earth. Here, Adam represents the primordial matter, or the starting point for the alchemical transformation. The lion's the great gift of his name is 4 times 10 and 6, and both Mercury and the number of the sun reveal to you, if you know how to rightly place the names. The letters hint at the Kabbalistic practice of gematria, where every letter corresponds to a number, and mystical insight can be gained through numerical manipulations of words and phrases. Here, 4 times 10 and 6 appears to be a code, but without more context, it is difficult to fully interpret. CENTURIACHYMICACHEMICALCENTURY 9. The references to the other holy house in Jerusalem in 66 with 600, the Holy Order, may also relate to specific Kabbalistic interpretations or historical events, but again, without more context, it is challenging to give a definitive interpretation. The secrets of our art are deeply intertwined with mysticism and require not only scientific knowledge, but also a certain spiritual or esoteric understanding. The coded language and cryptic references further underscore the complexity and mystery often associated with alchemical and Kabbalistic traditions. Note to reader: this is a dangerous stanza to interpret. We are choosing to say no more at this time, as it would be detrimental to your work for us to speculate and thereby in any way provide incomplete or incorrect information here. Be that as it may, this stanza is important. Please spend extra time with it in your mind, study, and laboratory. 10. Unica tantumus lapidus philosophorum materia, unicus is lapis, and medicina metallica tantum unica, praeter in non datur ulla tibi. Additur huic peregrini nil dimitur ipsi, ejus praeterquam pauca superfludas. 10. There is only one material of the philosopher's stone. There is only one stone, and only one metallic medicine, only one. Beyond it, none is given to you. Nothing foreign is added to it, nothing is taken from it, except its little excess. The passage reinforces the concept of singularity and completeness in the quest for the philosopher's stone, which is a symbolic substance in our art. It signifies that there is only one true path or substance that can lead to the ultimate goal in our art, which is the philosopher's stone. This is known to confer eternal life or turn base metals into gold, symbolizing the pursuit of spiritual growth and understanding. The stone and the metallic medicine referred to in the passage are likely the same thing, or closely linked. The metallic medicine could represent the alchemical process or substance that initiates transformation, just as a medicinal compound initiates healing or change in a body. The passage asserts that nothing external needs to be added to this substance or process, and nothing should be taken away. This could signify the perfection and completeness of the divine or natural laws that govern the universe, as understood by the artiste. The phrase "accept its little excess" may indicate the purifying process in our art, where impurities or superfluities are removed from a substance to reveal its true, purified form. This could also be a metaphor for the spiritual purification that is often associated with the alchemical journey, where unnecessary or harmful characteristics or desires are shed to reveal the gold of one's true nature. 11. Materia philosophorum diverso respectu est multiplex. Materiae sunt una, due, tres, quatuor, atq, quinq, sed una tibi verac sufficiat. Sunt q due, coramane haec, volat actera sursum, sunt tres sa, sulfur mercuriusca, simul. Sunt elementa tibi quoque, quatuor, igniscendam, aer quae sub aquis quaeras, sic tibi terramine, post essentia quinta, metallica pharmaca praebens, in sequitur simile si cetera quaeque tenens. 3. 11. The material of the philosophers is manifold in different respects. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 materials, but one true one suffices for you. And there are 2, of which one remains. The other flies upward. There are 3, salt, sulfur, and mercury together. There are also 4 elements for you, fire and air, which you seek under the waters, so the earth remains for you. Then follows the 5th essence, providing metallic medicines, holding everything together. 3. There is a multifaceted nature of the alchemical substances and principles involved in the pursuit of the philosopher's stone. This nature reinforces the unity underlying this diversity. First, it asserts that although there may appear to be many materials involved in our art, from 1 to 5, only one true one is essential. This reinforces the concept of singularity and ultimate unity that is a central theme in many alchemical traditions. Then it mentions 2 substances, one of which remains and one of which flies upward. This could refer to the alchemical process of distillation, where certain elements are separated based on their volatility or ability to vaporize. The mention of 3 salt, sulfur, and mercury together refers to the tria prima or 3 primes of our art. These are fundamental elements that represent different aspects of matter and the process of transformation. The reference to 4 elements, fire and air, which you seek under the waters, so the earth remains for you, alludes to the classical elements of ancient philosophy and our art: earth, air, fire, and water. It suggests a process of seeking or refining, symbolized by fire and air, within the domain of the subconscious or emotional, water, to ultimately attain a solid material realization, earth. Finally, the passage introduces the 5th essence, which provides metallic medicines, echoing the idea of the philosopher's stone or a universal panacea. This quintessence represents the purest form of matter or spirit, and is thought to hold everything together. 12. Materia lapidis philosophorum fide tantum concipiter. Materies auri-chimici tam distat aboro vulgi quam tellus distat ab sepuli. Ergo fides opus est cernentibus exteriora, donec cognoscant interiora famo, semel. Note to reader, line 12. Immediately above, in the original Latin text, is donec cognoscant interiora fimo. There's a typo in the original Latin text here, fimo. Fimo is not a known Latin word. The sentence makes sense if the word is corrected to simul simul. We have corrected the word to simul simul, but we are making note of it here as we do not know if the typo was intentional or not. 12. The material of the philosopher's stone is conceived only by faith. The matter of gold for the chemist is as far from gold of the common people as the earth is from the celestial pole. Therefore, faith is needed for those who see the outer, until they simultaneously recognize the inner. The passage is conveying a philosophical concept in our art which says that the process of creating the philosopher's stone requires faith, not only in the physical transformation of substances, but also in the metaphorical transformation of the self. It mentions that the artiste's gold, the result of their labor and the symbol of ultimate achievement, is as far removed from common gold as the earth is from the celestial pole. This is a way of expressing that what artists seek is not just the conversion of base metals into physical gold, but a deeper, more spiritual or philosophical transformation. This pursuit involves a fundamental shift in understanding or consciousness that goes beyond surface appearances, the outer, to perceive the underlying reality, the inner. The process requires faith, since the ultimate goal or true nature of the gold cannot be immediately seen or understood. So, while on the surface it seems to be about a physical process, the deeper meaning could be seen as a metaphor for personal growth and enlightenment. suggesting that the path to wisdom involves faith and a deep understanding of both the outer and inner realities of existence. 13. Exemplum addit sendivogus. Sift aliquot simul infantes sub veste latentem sexum non poteris sonere luminibus. Vestibus ablatis, queros interque, queas discrimen facilis nocere luminibus. Neamque. Aliter rerum formus vulgaris ocellus concebit atq, aliter doctor in arte sua. Per speculum tantum nature cernimus umbram atq, sub he sec, virtus maxima tectilitet. 13. Sendivogius adds an example. If several infants are hidden under a garment, you will not be able to discern their sex with your eyes. With the clothes removed, among boys and girls, the difference is easy to recognize with your eyes. For the common eye conceives the forms of things in one way, and in another way, the doctor in his art. Only through the mirror of nature do we see the shadow, and beneath this, the greatest power lies hidden. This passage is using a metaphor of concealed and revealed infants to make a point about perception, understanding, and the practice of our art. It suggests that superficial observation or common understanding, represented by the covered infants, is insufficient for true discernment or knowledge. Only by going beyond the surface appearance, removing the garments, can one perceive the real distinctions and complexities of the subject, recognize the sexes of the infants. The phrase, for the common eye, conceives the forms of things in one way, and in another way. The doctor in his art underlines the distinction between common knowledge and the deeper understanding sought through our art or any profound study. Here, the doctor could refer to a master artiste or anyone who has achieved a deep level of understanding in their field. The final lines, only through the mirror of nature do we see the shadow, and beneath this, the greatest power lies hidden, reiterate the idea that reality is more complex and profound than surface appearances suggest. It suggests that the ultimate truths or powers of the universe are hidden beneath the surface or shadow of the natural world, and can only be perceived through a deep understanding of nature, the mirror through which these truths are reflected. 14. Summa totius artis ex hermete trismegisto primo inventore inferiora sui sublimibus accuperantur, santidem soli, sanidem Q, holy. Mercury rapidum, terre sidem zeris ignum, solerti, mentis dexteritate tuae, spiritus atera super aethera lucida scandit, ecoello rusum lapsus hic imapati, Mercurius sceptro terramque pullumque gubernat, abscissae plumae quando fuere sibi. Atque caput aude, super ignum fuse, junctum, uti rubor inclusus exteriora plata. Omnia quae tangit fulvum traducit in aurum, haec sant alchemicae, mystica dona scholae. 14. The sum of the entire art from Hermes Trismegistus, the first inventor. The lower things are made equal to the higher, they are the same to the sun, they are the same to the pole. If you take away the swift fire from the earth's mercury with the dexterity of your clever mind, the spirit from the earth climbs above the clear ether, and then falling again from the sky, it seeks the depths. Mercury governs the earth on the pole with its scepter when its feathers have been cut off, and its melting head, placed above the fire so that the exterior may seek the red within. Everything it touches, it turns into golden yellow. These are the mystical gifts of the alchemical school. This passage is a poetic summary of alchemical transformation as conceived by Hermes Trismegistus, who is traditionally considered the founder of our art. The passage begins with the Hermetic principle, as above, so below, implying that the microcosm, lower things, reflects the macrocosm, higher things. This is a fundamental concept in our art and various esoteric philosophies that suggests a connection and correspondence between different levels of reality or existence. It mentions Mercury, which in our art often symbolizes the volatile principle or the spirit, the process described, where the spirit rises above the ether and then falls back to the earth, mirrors the alchemical process of sublimation and condensation, symbolizing purification and transformation. The mention of the feathers being cut off may be referring to the process of killing or purifying Mercury, often depicted as a volatile bird in alchemical texts. The phrase melting head could refer to the alchemical process of calcination, which involves heating a substance until it reduces to ashes. The passage then suggests that the resulting substance or essence, presumably the philosopher's stone or some stage of it, has the power to transmute any substance into gold. This is a common motif in our art, though it's often interpreted metaphorically as referring to a spiritual or psychological transformation rather than a literal one. 15. Summa totius artis e Gebera rege Hispaniorum. Nil chemicum sulfur chimic conducit in arte, sider lecto, candida nupta, suo, namque metallorum corrumpit corpor quaig, sed cave ne capias absque magifterio. non aeternum corpus, sed corporis abdita virtus, a theory, chimico, seminis and star erit. Mas aeternum folus nessa producere prolem, auxilia trasum, eniferat uxoro pem. Conceptum semen matris nutritur in alvo, perfectus dona campor fidus erit. Indeci progressus materna lactesibitur, donec cum tender membra tenet solida. Indax supposita haec subsistan geometria perf, e praeben chimicae, pharmacatrina, scholae. 15. The sum of the entire art from Geber, king of Spain. No chemical sulfur aids in chemical art, if the white bride is missing from her bed. For it corrupts the bodies of all metals, but beware not to take it without mastery. For it's not the body, but the hidden virtue of the body, that will be like the seed of the ethereal in chemical art. For the male alone cannot produce offspring, unless his wife provides supportive aid. The seed conceived is nourished in the mother's womb until the fetus is perfect in time. Then it is fed on mother's milk and progresses, until finally the solid limbs hold firm. And so, these three stages finally stand completed, and they provide threefold remedies to the chemical school. This passage summarizes the alchemical principles and processes as conceived by Geber, also known as Geber ibn Hayyan, a prominent figure in the history of our art. The chemical sulfur and white bride are alchemical symbols that typically refer to certain substances or principles involved in the creation of the philosopher's stone, the ultimate goal of our art. The white bride could be a reference to the alchemical substance mercury or the feminine principle in the alchemical transformation process. The passage metaphorically speaks of chemical transformation through the analogy of conception, gestation, birth, and growth of a child, a common motif in alchemical texts. It suggests the alchemical process occurs in stages, similar to the development of a fetus in the womb and its subsequent growth after birth, stressing the need for each stage to be completed properly for the final transformation to occur. The final lines, these three stages finally stand completed, and they provide threefold remedies to the chemical school, allude to the stages of alchemical work often described as negredo, blackening or decay, albedo, whitening or purification, and rubedo, reddening or perfection. This passage is a poetic summary of the transformative process in our art as seen through the lens of Geber ibn Hayyan's teachings, using the metaphor of human conception and birth to represent the stages of alchemical transformation. 16. Venesis ovum philosophicum. Venesis testa luteo acea albumen constat, ovum quad chemici consolabere solent. Solum testa notat, candor lunam, lutumque mercurium, lapidus sunt tria principia, calfacet albium, testa extima, sulphurus in star, alitas hot in trans interiorissimil, ipsius albumen carnem designat, and ossa mercurio luteum sanguinis in star erit. 16. The philosophical egg of the phoenix. The egg of the phoenix is made of shell, yolk, and albumen. This is the egg that chemists usually celebrate. The shell signifies the sun, the white albumen, the moon, and the yolk, Mercury. These are the three principles of the stone. The outer shell hardens the albumen in the guise of sulfur, not penetrating the insides of the bird even once. The albumen itself designates the flesh and bones. The yolk will be in the role of Mercury's blood. This passage is describing the philosophical egg, a central symbol in alchemical literature, in terms of the mythical phoenix. In our art, the philosophical egg represents a vessel for transformation and rebirth, much like the phoenix symbolizes resurrection and renewal. The egg's shell, yolk, and albumen, egg white, are compared to the three principles of our art. Sulfur, sun, representing the active masculine principle, Mercury, moon, representing the passive feminine principle, and salt, mercury, representing the balance between the two. The shell hardening the albumen represents the sulfuric principle acting on the substance within the philosophical egg in a process that doesn't involve penetrating the insides of the bird, probably referring to the closed nature of the alchemical operation. The passage further correlates the albumen, egg white, to flesh and bones, while the yolk is associated with blood. This could be a metaphor for the different stages of the alchemical work, where the substance within the egg or alchemical vessel undergoes changes analogous to the formation of flesh, bones, and blood. 17. Phoenix philosophicus. Mercurius Vegas, Oricoma sol candida luna, sunt minere lapidus, martis, and artis opi. Materium lapidus physici, tibi sepetit Hermes, ipsius informans noble sulfur erit. Sulphurus haut, protus lapidi substantia tota, Hermes aurifero semin gaudet, ovens, illicit hoc semen tantum tithonia conjux. Iti matis sua concoquit ipsa diu. Semina cocta diu furtum simula ripet Hermes, concipit, and post H hermaphrodita perit. Hermes terribilis propter sua furta necator, impositos grogo, vertitur incineris. Oriferi cineris celsas mittuntur inundas. Nascitur hinc phoenix, unica semper avis. Haec reparat, nutrit, sece ipsa reseminat eos, acis hum nidum semper in ignor struit. Haec potus est cunctos hominum depiller matbos, ecce metallorum languida member levat. 17. The philosophical phoenix. The wandering Mercury, the golden-haired sun, the white moon, they are the minds of the stone, by the help of Mars in the art. Hermes provides you with the material of the physic stone. In its forming, the noble sulfur will be. The whole substance of sulfur does not benefit the stone. Hermes rejoices, exulting in the golden seed. This seed only Tithonia's spouse draws out, and she herself cooks it for a long time in her womb. Hermes stealthily snatches the long-cooked seeds he conceives, and afterward gives birth to a hermaphrodite. Terrible Hermes is killed because of his thefts. Placed on a funeral pyre, he is turned into ashes. The ashes of the golden one are sent into salty waves. From here, the phoenix is born, the unique bird always. This bird repairs, nourishes, and reseeds itself, and always builds its nest in the fire. This bird is capable of driving away all human diseases. This bird lifts the languid limbs of the metals. This passage is a metaphoric description of the alchemical process through the lens of the mythological phoenix, a bird that is cyclically regenerated or reborn. In our art, Mercury, Sun, and Moon symbolize different principles or substances involved in creating the philosopher's stone. The wandering Mercury can be seen as the volatile principle or the matter of the stone, the golden-haired sun as the masculine or active principle, and the white moon as the feminine or passive principle. The reference to Hermes and Tithonia's spouse, Eos or Aurora, goddess of dawn, suggests the extraction and purification of a golden seed, perhaps a symbol for the essence of the philosopher's stone. This extraction and purification process involves a prolonged period of cooking or heating, a common alchemical operation. Hermes then gives birth to a hermaphrodite, a symbol often used in alchemical texts to represent the union of opposites or the completion of the great work, is killed, and turned into ashes, another symbol for a stage of transformation, which are then sent into the salty waves, possibly indicating a process of dissolution or purification. The phoenix born from these ashes symbolizes the final product of the alchemical process, the philosopher's stone, often associated with rejuvenation, healing, and the transmutation of metals. The phoenix's self-nourishing and self-receding qualities highlight the cyclical nature of the alchemical process, while its ability to alleviate human diseases and lift the languid limbs of the metals metaphorically represent the curative and transmutative powers attributed to the philosopher's stone. 18. Materia lapidis philosophorum imari petitur, materies aqua prima metallorum bene mixta terrestri fluido, dicitur physicis, atque elementa duo mineris haec omnibus insun, atomina culta catera bina latent, oceanus ferit unctuarum mater aquarum, hinc etianum venient, puridunca simul, Oceanus chimicus sic ipsi duobus abundat pisibus, post physisi subdula dextra capit, ex balena ferox, alter dictus leviathan, squamosus, cunctos ora fermentivorans. Uxoris gavisis balena, viri leviathan, sustinet, haequana raequar solant, nascitur horrendus mixto despermacidus, cauhusunt squame funditus oriferae. Sidi sperma metallorum medicina salubris, asolet illorum pillare nemque librum. Pluribus opusus verbis, nam languida quaeque corpus humani membra levare solet. 18. The material of the philosopher's stone is asked to be revealed. The material, water, the first well-mixed metal, it is said by physicists in earthly fluid. And two elements of the ore are in all these, yet the other two hide secretly. The ocean carries the mother of all waters, for from here they come, and here they return. The chemical ocean thus abounds itself with two fish, these a crafty physicist's hand captures, here the fierce whale, the other called Leviathan, scaly, swallowing all with gaping mouth. The whale takes on the roles of a wife, Leviathan of a man. They are accustomed to come together properly. The horrifying whale is born from mixed sperm. Its scales are thoroughly golden. The sperm of the whale is a wholesome medicine for metals, for it usually removes their leprosy. There is no need for more words. For every languishing human body parts it usually relieves. Here, water and metals are described as fundamental elements, and the ocean is metaphorically described as a chemical source that contains the secrets of alchemical transformation. The whale and the Leviathan are symbols representing two key substances or processes in the creation of the philosopher's stone. The specific interpretation might vary, but often in alchemical texts, a union of opposites, like male-female or sulfur-mercury, is a common theme. And the resulting product from their interaction is often depicted as a powerful substance or state of enlightenment. The reference to the sperm of the whale is a metaphor for a potent substance which designates a key phase in the transformation process. The claim that it can remove leprosy from metals likely refers to the purification or transmutation of base metals into gold. In other alchemical treatises, we have come across descriptions of a leprous lead at a certain stage. 19. Materia lapidis philosophici desuminer ABB insectis, est salamandra potens, nullus obnoxia flammis, in regno chimico cognita quic satis. Hanc, quae prosequator, Servinus cornibus, eols non-caper, oti aries sed scarabaeus erit. 19. The material of the philosopher's stone is taken from insects. The salamander is powerful, not harmed by any flames, known well enough in the chemical kingdom. The bird that pursues it, with deer's antlers, will not be a goat or a ram, but will be a scarab. In this passage, the salamander, traditionally associated with the elemental fire due to its legendary ability to survive flames, is presented. This creature could symbolize a specific substance or process in our art that undergoes or withstands purification by fire. The bird with deer's antlers pursuing the salamander may represent another element, a stage in the alchemical process, or even a different aspect of the same substance or process symbolized by the salamander. Deer antlers are often interpreted as signs of growth or regeneration in alchemical symbolism, hinting at a transformative stage of the process. Lastly, the scarab represents neither a goat nor a ram, but another form or stage. Known as a potent symbol of rebirth or transformation in various cultures, it likely signifies the transformative process itself or the final product, the philosopher's stone. 20. Materia lapidis physici comparator vestiges. In silvis chemicis multiculatibus erat, quadrupedum princeps bellua tergemina, alcis qui corpus, sed mens elephantus atrocis, corn of quaecu, perirhinocerotus habet, rhinoceros nim sit, physisi solertia quaerit qui dubitat mecis crida adas duos. 20. The material of the philosopher's stone is compared to beasts. In the chemical forests, it roams with many leaps. The prince of quadrupeds, the threefold beast. Its body is of the elk, but its mind is of the fierce elephant, and it also has the horn of the wild rhinoceros. Whether it is a rhinoceros, the wisdom of the physicist inquires, who doubts, let him believe there are two limits. Here, the material of the philosopher's stone, an emblematic reference to the sought-after transformative substance in our art, is compared to a threefold beast. This beast is described as having the body of an elk, the mind of an elephant, and the horn of a rhinoceros, three different animals, each with unique attributes, possibly signifying different qualities or stages of the alchemical process. The elk might symbolize physical strength and endurance indicative of the substance's resilience during the alchemical operations. The elephant, noted for wisdom and memory, could represent the intellectual rigor required to understand and perfect the process. The rhinoceros, with its distinctive horn, might denote the power of transformation embodied by the philosopher's stone itself. Finally, the phrase, let him believe there are two limits, suggests the duality inherent in alchemical operations. The starting material and the final product, or the blackening and whitening stages of alchemical transformation. It implies that the process is cyclic or iterative, involving multiple stages of refinement and purification. 21. Materia lapidis philosophorum equiparator contentus in arca feederis. Hermetis tabulus, manum simul, ace bacillum, mercuri, chimici fideris arca tenet. Ecce tabella smaragdina, legis monstrat in arte, mensurum, numerum, pondisi temque docet. A Jove Saturnus regnus exodus Olympo, hand secum manum, quam capit arca tulit. Bifertur aronis quondam virvis bacillus, mercuri, cretus, arita virga viret. Arcum qui gestera cupit, levita sit ipsi, and evolit, ultrasis sustinuis manus. 21. The material of the philosopher's stone is compared to the contents of the Ark of the Covenant. The emerald tablet of Hermes, manna, and the staff are contained in the Ark of the Covenant of the chemist. This emerald tablet shows the laws in the art. It teaches the measure, number, and also the weight. Saturn was deposed from his kingdom in Olympus by Jupiter. He carried with him the manna, which the Ark takes. B. It is reported that once Aaron's staff flourished, Mercury, you would believe, a dry rod, thrives. He who wishes to carry the Ark must be a Levite, unless he wants to suffer avenging hands. In this passage, The author draws upon imagery from religious traditions, specifically that of the Ark of the Covenant from the Abrahamic religions, to offer insight into the nature of the Philosopher's Stone. The Ark of the Covenant was said to hold several important artifacts, including the emerald tablet of Hermes, manna, and Aaron's staff. Here, these artifacts could symbolize different aspects of the Philosopher's Stone or the alchemical process. The emerald tablet, often cited in alchemical texts, is associated with Hermes Trismegistus and is said to encapsulate the principles of alchemical transmutation. Its mention suggests the essential knowledge needed to create the Philosopher's Stone. The manna, a heavenly food that sustained the Israelites in the desert according to the Bible, might represent the nourishing and life-giving aspect of the stone, embodying its ability to perfect or nourish base metals into gold, or to create the elixir of life in some interpretations. Aaron's staff, which miraculously budded to confirm his divine election in the Bible, could symbolize the miraculous and transformative powers of the stone. The last two lines seem to be a cautionary statement, suggesting that the pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone, much like carrying the ark, must be done by those prepared for the task, a Levite, or else they risk severe consequences, reflecting the dangers inherent in the pursuit of powerful and potentially volatile transformations. 22. Ornatus tabernaculi chimici. Lampadibus septem chemicus levita sacratum, agrediator opus, quaec metalla, puto, non oleum decit porum putumque lucernus, ad conserandum lampada perpetuum. Induat amp, bestem chemicus levita sacratum, cujus urim, tihomim capsula sculpta gerat dixi multa quidem sapientibus occuperitis, artis dimidium, qui bene sepit, habet. Ignis and azoth sufficient, iura denota ignem, thummim justidium significare solet. 22. The adornment of the chemist tabernacle. The chemist, as a Levite with 7 lamps, should undertake the work, and the metals, I believe. Let there not lack pure and unadulterated oil for the lamps, to maintain the perpetual lamp. And let the chemist, as a consecrated Levite, wear the garment which carries the engraved chest piece of Urim and Thummim. I have indeed said many things to the wise and skilled. He who has grasped it well has half of the art. Fire and azoth are enough. Ur denotes fire. Thummim usually signifies righteousness. In this passage, the alchemical work is compared to the sacred rituals carried out by the Levites in the tabernacle, as described in the Hebrew Bible. The passage highlights several key symbols in alchemical lore, intertwining them with biblical imagery to portray the spiritual and physical elements of the alchemical process. The chemist is likened to a Levite, the ancient Jewish tribe responsible for religious duties, emphasizing the sacred nature of the alchemical work. The reference to the 7 lamps could be an allusion to the 7 planetary metals of our art: gold, silver, mercury, copper, iron, tin, lead, or the 7 stages of alchemical transformation. The pure and unadulterated oil for the lamps could symbolize the pure intent or the pure substance required in the alchemical process, intended to sustain the perpetual lamp, a possible reference to the ongoing and cyclical nature of the work. The chemist is also instructed to wear a garment with the Urim and Thummim, divine tools of decision-making in the Hebrew Bible, perhaps to stress the need for spiritual guidance or moral rectitude in the pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone. Fire and azoth are then named as sufficient for the work. In alchemical texts, fire often symbolizes transformation, while azoth, a term appearing in medieval Our Arte, can represent a universal medication or the universal solvent, a substance believed to be capable of perfecting any unrefined matter. Finally, the terms and Thummim are said to denote fire and righteousness, respectively, pointing again to the confluence of physical processes, fiery transformation, and moral or spiritual qualities, righteousness, in our art. 23. Material apidus physici ex Novo Testamento desumta, orum thus, murum, plebs obtulit ipsum agorum Christo, thus luni est, mirac mercurige, conciput hic flammas, atque, ardent ambos sursum, nulla simul junctis vis violenta noset. 23. The matter of the Philosopher's Stone is drawn from the New Testament. The common people themselves offered gold, frankincense, and myrrh to Christ. Frankincense is of the moon, and myrrh of Mercury. Here it conceives flames, and both burn separately. No violent force harms them when they are joined together. This passage is a clear blend of Christian theology and alchemical symbolism. The reference to gold, frankincense, and myrrh refers to the gifts offered to the baby Jesus by the Magi, as described in the New Testament. In this context, the common people are likely the Magi, who were seen as wise men or philosophers. Here, these gifts are equated to the 3 principal elements of our art: Gold symbolizes the sun or perfection. Frankincense, thus, connected with the moon, might symbolize purification or sanctity, and myrrh, associated with Mercury, could denote transformation or transition. It's noteworthy to mention that artistes often use one term to refer to several concepts, and one concept could be referred to by several terms. The burning of frankincense and myrrh may suggest the alchemical process of purification through fire, a common theme in alchemical texts. It suggests that though each burns separately, undergoing its own transformation, they do not harm each other when mixed, perhaps implying the harmony and balance achieved in the successful blending of elements. 24. Requisita in philosopho chemico potissimum consideranda, inci metallorum, salibus propior via constat, arte secretum salc vitronque dabunt, namque cunc vitrum fragile, hot sibi ductile reddit, huic dabitur chemica nullus, in arte locus. Ecce petra vivas kinesit ducere lymphus, huic dabitud chemica nullus in arte locus. EQ, equalus, volatilibus qui nesit ducere fixa, huic dabitur chemica nullus in art locus. Pissimo hexi tenet, propria praxit docebit, huic dabitur chemica primus in arte locus. 24. The most important considerations required in a chemical philosopher. In the metal salts, the closest way is known, the secret of the art salt and glass will give. For whoever makes glass fragile, not ductile for himself, no place will be given to him in the chemical art. And he who doesn't know how to draw live waters from the rock, no place will be given to him in the chemical art. Equal. He who does not know how to lead the volatile into fixed, no place will be given to him in the chemical art. He who holds these at the same time, and will teach by his own practice, to him will be given the first place in the chemical art. This passage seems to list the skills or understandings necessary for someone to excel in the chemical art, which we might understand to be the practice of our art. The metal salts could refer to the basic substances used in alchemical experiments, while salt and glass could represent principles or operations in our art. The glass may symbolize the alchemical vessel, and salt is often associated with the principle of stability or fixation in our art. The mention of making glass fragile, not ductile, flexible, seems to suggest an improper handling of the processes involved. The phrases about drawing live waters from the rock and leading the volatile into fixed could refer to the necessary transformations in our art. Drawing live waters from the rock might refer to the extraction of the pure essence, spirit from matter, and leading the volatile, the changing spirit-like component into the fixed, and the unchanging. Body-like component could refer to the stabilization of the essence within matter, a central goal of many alchemical works. The last line suggests that a master artiste is one who not only understands these concepts, but can apply and teach them as well. This person will be given the highest honor in the art. 25. Materia lapidus philosophorum infinita habet nomina, publica sequa fides chemisis adebenda libellus, and Caesar ille senex ipsi requirit eam. Hoc sine veri nostra professeris arte claude hic atque appetit, vivifica cinecat, arsenicum nostrum si quis cognominat ipsum, Geberi mentem funditus ille tenet. Si penecaeam valthericam dixeris eris. Fulgida quote, noctu toto sunt sidera coelo, materiae nostrae nomina sunt totidum, eti nisi multiplicarentur cognomina nostrae materiae, ars pueris iudificanda foret. 25. The matter of the philosopher's stone has infinite names. If there is any public faith to be attributed to alchemical books, that very old man himself demands it. Without this, you will achieve nothing true in our art. This substance closes and opens, kills and brings to life. If someone calls it our arsenic, he fully understands the mind of Geber. If you say panacea or theriaca, you will be right. As many bright stars there are in the sky all night, there are just as many names for our matter. And unless the nicknames of our matter were multiplied, the art would be judged suitable for children. The passage is telling us that the philosopher's stone, the ultimate goal of our art, often symbolizing ultimate knowledge or enlightenment, has countless names, echoing the complexity and depth of the alchemical process. The old man likely refers to a wise, elder artiste or a philosophical entity associated with our art. The verse refers to Geber, an influential Islamic artiste, and suggests that understanding his works is a key to alchemical wisdom. It then suggests that our matter, the primary substance worked within our art, can be referred to by various names including panacea and theriaca. Panacea symbolizes a universal remedy, while theriaca is a type of antidote used in ancient times. The comparison to the countless stars in the sky emphasizes the near infinite variety and complexity in the practice of our art. Lastly, the verse suggests that this multiplicity is necessary. Without it, The art would be oversimplified, reduced to child's play, and lose its profound significance. 26. Lapis philosophorum ex solo vitriolo ordem ducit, est in vitriolo quicquid quaerunt sapientes, artificum, vetus est regula, verissimil, utrioli triplex genus est, quod right notandum, merige lunae solicitanc viret, quicquid germinat, omnivire, viritus color ipsi, vita estum plantis, arboribuscissimo, tempor maiali quaeso totam aspis terram, luminibus quicquid cernis, ideum nevire. Sic vira endum, noster, cretus mihi, vitriolatus, mercurius, penisi cret ipsi sui. B2. Si viret sic vere and noster viritus leo, quando necator, tum simul ac penitus candida luna viret. Hic color artifici medius rubrum inter an album sed de materia decu color satis. 26. The philosopher's stone is derived solely from vitriol, and vitriol is everything that the wise seek. This is an old rule of the artisans, and true at the same time. There are 3 types of vitriol, which should be duly noted. Of Mercury, Moon, and Sun, likewise, it flourishes. Everything that grows flourishes. The green color itself is life to plants and to trees alike. In the springtime, I ask, observe the entire earth. With your eyes, everything you see, all of it flourishes. So our vitriolated Mercury flourishes. Believe me, he himself lacks his own wings. B2. So flourishes our green lion. When he is killed, then at the same time, the white moon flourishes completely. This color is in the middle of the artisan between red and white, but of the matter and of the heat enough. The philosopher's stone, the ultimate goal of our art, often symbolizing ultimate knowledge or enlightenment, is derived from vitriol. Vitriol is a term in our art referring to sulfates, which are key compounds in alchemical processes. The verse states that vitriol contains all that wise artistes seek, underlining its importance. The 3 types of vitriol mentioned likely symbolize the 3 prime substances in our art: mercury, sulfur, and salt, which are represented by Mercury, Moon, and Sun, respectively. Green color, symbolizing life and growth, is associated with vitriol. The green lion is a common alchemical symbol that can represent several things, including vitriol, the green stage of alchemical transformation, or even the philosopher's stone itself. The mention of the white moon flourishing could be a reference to the albedo, or whitening stage, of the alchemical process. The final line suggests that this green color stands between the red and white stages of the alchemical process, which usually represent advanced stages of transformation. The line, but of the matter, and of the heat enough, might imply that the correct understanding and application of matter and heat, or transformative energy, is enough for the alchemical work. Artistes are known to veil their teachings in cryptic language, often using many names for one thing and one name for many things simultaneously. Therefore, these interpretations should be seen as possible meanings, not definitive ones. 27. Fides spec charitas in opere philosophico consideranda, unica spec chimici fulvo consistit in auro saepius asvana, iuditur arte sua. Id quod habet, perdit, quod sperat and optat, omittit, dissident species eris and umbramane. Ipsi libris fidei libri diffidere et ipsi se posulant vana, qualitur inde fidei charus amor fidei per devia quoquod aberrant, hiceturum justa monstrat in ear viam. 27. Faith, hope, and charity to be considered in the philosophical work. The only hope of the artiste lies in the golden ore, often but vainly. It is judged by its art. What he possesses he loses, and what he hopes for and desires he forfeits. The appearance of wealth departs, and only a shadow remains. He trusts in books, but the books often deceive him many times. He is deceived by this vain faith. Dear love of faith, through which many wander astray, this again shows the just way to enter. This passage appears to deal with the virtues of faith, hope, and charity, or love, as they apply to the philosophical or alchemical work. The only hope lying in the golden ore likely refers to the hope or goal of artistes to transform base metals into gold, or symbolically to achieve spiritual refinement or enlightenment. However, this hope often proves vain, as the process is challenging and fraught with pitfalls, leading to losses and disappointment, symbolized by the departure of wealth and the remaining shadow. The artiste's faith in books and their teachings is also called into question, as these sources often prove deceptive, leading to errors in practice. Finally, the dear love of faith could represent the virtue of charity or love, implying that it is this virtue that can guide those who have lost their way back onto the rightful path. It might imply that while the technical aspects of our art or philosophical work can be complex and deceptive, The true path is rooted in these fundamental virtues: faith, hope, and love. 28. Materialia lapidis, philosophici unde dissemenda, ex endivogio. Saturnus, Lunae, Venus, Mars, Mercury, quam, a Jupiter, in chemia munia mixta, gerent. Nam perilli spatio distant a fonte caloris, quem sol imperti lumi quic suo. Emendan tantum sublimia corpus solum, haec prudenter, cater linkissimul. 28. Materials of the Philosopher's Stone, where they are to be taken from, according to Sendivogius. Saturn, Moon, Venus, Mars, as well as Mercury, Jupiter, and chemistry carry mixed duties, for they are at an equal distance from the source of heat, which the sun imparts to each with its light. Only those lofty bodies needing correction by the sun, take these wisely, leave the rest at the same time. This passage mentions several celestial bodies, Saturn, Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter, and associates them with the alchemical work of creating the Philosopher's Stone, an elusive substance said to confer enlightenment or immortality, and thought to be capable of transmuting base metals into gold. Each celestial body, or planet, in the language of our art, corresponds to a specific metal. For example, Saturn often represents lead, Venus represents copper, and so forth. This association between planets and metals is common in alchemical texts. The source of heat, imparted by the sun, is likely referring to a process of purification or transformation that these materials must undergo in the process of creating the Philosopher's Stone. The sun in our art often symbolizes gold or the perfected state of matter. The advice to take these wisely, leave the rest at the same time, suggests a need for discernment in the materials or processes used in this alchemical work. 29. Morienus de tribus lapidis physici principic, albo confumo viritus leo fidedac, unda sufficium chemico, catera quae fuge. 29. Morienus on the three principles of the Philosopher's Stone. With white smoke, the green lion, and the foul-smelling wave, they suffice for the chemist, while everyone else runs away. This passage is attributed to Morienus, a Roman sage who was one of the earliest known European artists to convert to Islam and live in the Islamic world. The white smoke, green lion, and foul-smelling wave are metaphorical descriptors common in alchemical texts. The white smoke could be a reference to sublimation, a process of turning a solid directly into a vapor, which is a common phase in alchemical operations. The term could also be representing a substance or a stage in the alchemical process that the practitioner should aim for. The green lion is often interpreted to signify vitriol or a raw primal form of matter, the unrefined soul or life force to be purified and integrated in the alchemical process. The foul-smelling wave may represent putrefaction or fermentation, crucial stages in the alchemical work, often associated with transformation and renewal. The phrase, "they suffice for the chemist while everyone else runs away," suggests that these three principles or stages are the most important or essential in the alchemical process of creating the Philosopher's Stone. 30. Epilogus. Aut hic aut nusquam dabitur tibi nascer plusquam seminaque corridon seminat illa metet. Quisque metallus serit, metet illa metallus ubinde, utque tuum semen, sic tua messis exit. 30. Epilogue. Either here or nowhere will be given to you to know more. What seeds Corydon sows, he will reap those. Each one sows metals, will reap metals in turn as your seed, so your harvest comes out. In this epilogue, the text appears to be delivering a message of wisdom or conclusion. Corydon is a shepherd character often found in ancient pastoral poetry, such as the works of the Roman poet Virgil, who represents the simple, rustic life. The first line suggests that the knowledge presented here in this text, presumably an alchemical or philosophical work, is definitive if the reader cannot gain understanding from this. They will not be able to find it elsewhere. The seeds Corydon sows, which he will reap, might represent the inputs and outputs of alchemical work, hinting that the outcome depends on the ingredients and procedures used. The phrase, "each one sows metals, will reap metals in turn," suggests that the work you put into the alchemical process, symbolized by sowing metals, will determine the results you get, reaping metals. As your seed, so your harvest comes out, further reiterates this message, that the outcome of your work will reflect the nature and quality of what you put into it. This is a common theme in alchemical texts, emphasizing the careful selection and preparation of materials and the precise execution of procedures. 31. Efficacia lapidis philosophici. Eo, quam dura premit miserum conditio vitae, siusit is morbo sosimul are miser. Subvenet his nostri lapidis confection vera, atque malum penitus curat utrumque simo. 31. The efficacy of the Philosopher's Stone. Alas, how hard the miserable condition of life presses, whether it is a disease or indeed poverty, wretched. The true concoction of our stone comes to their aid and thoroughly cures each of the two evils. This passage suggests the profound impact of the philosopher's stone on human suffering. The first two lines lament the hardships of life, identifying illness and poverty as two key forms of suffering. The second half of the passage claims that the philosopher's stone, a central symbol in our art, can alleviate these forms of suffering. The philosopher's stone was historically said to have the power to transmute base metals into gold, potentially addressing poverty, and to produce the elixir of life, which could cure all diseases, addressing illness. Our Arte promotes the transformative and healing properties of the philosopher's stone in curing both physical disease and societal poverty ailments. 32. De permutation quattro elementorum. Ex terra sit aqua hinc ei aer post procelat ignis unica sphera temen poterior tenet, nam latitator solent in aqua, samul ignis and air, in terram tandem, singula quaque cadunt. 32. On the permutation of the four elements. From earth, let there be water, from this air, afterwards fire springs forth. Yet one sphere holds the latter ones. For fire and air usually hide together in water. In the end, everything falls into the earth. There is an interconnectedness and transformation of the four classical elements, earth, water, air, and fire, as understood in alchemical thought. The first two lines indicate a process or progression from earth to water to air and finally to fire, with a notion that all these transformations are contained within a singular sphere or universe, sphera, emphasizing the unity of the natural world. The latter half of the passage communicates the idea of the elements' interdependence and the cycle of transformation. It suggests that fire and air, being more ephemeral and volatile, tend to hide or be contained within water. Eventually, all elements will return to the earth, perhaps implying a cycle of birth, transformation, and return to origin, a theme that aligns with many alchemical principles. 33. Rosarius de terra, spirituum requies tellus est, namque coactus ulterius nunquam fervida flammanos set. 33. Rosarius, about earth. The earth is the rest of the spirits, for once gathered, the hot flame never harms any further. In this passage, the earth is being described as a haven or resting place for spirits. Once these spirits are gathered or embodied within the earth, they are safe from the harm that might come from intense heat or flame. This passage seems to suggest an alchemical process where volatile elements or spirits are transformed and stabilized, coactus, by embodying them in a more stable earthly form, tellus. The fervida flamma, hot flame, may refer to the alchemical process of calcination or intense heat often used in these transformations. Once these volatile elements are made stable, earth, they are no longer susceptible to the transformative or destructive power of the flame. Rosarius, the author referred to here, may be Arnold of Villanova, a renowned physician and artiste of the late 13th and early 14th centuries. He was also known as Rosarius Minor and wrote several works on our art and medicine. 34. The aqua. Proficitur solum, quam querit turba sulphurum, ars, per aqua sub aquis, propter alca in aquis. 34. About water. The art, which the crowd of sages seeks, is accomplished only through water, from water, because of water, in water. This passage seems to emphasize the crucial role of water in the practice of alchemical or philosophical processes. The use of the phrase through water, from water, because of water, in water indicates that water is integral to the processes or transformations that the crowd of sages, likely referring to artists or philosophers, are pursuing. In the context of our art, water often symbolizes the universal solvent or the one thing that artists believed could dissolve all substances and thereby facilitate the process of transformation. Purification. This could also be interpreted as the philosophical concept of the unity of all things, since all things are in water and come from water. The essence of this passage seems to be highlighting the fundamental importance of water in both the practical and philosophical aspects of our art. 35. Sendivogius tractu, de igni. Duplicis est ignis generis primus sibi constat, materiam suo claudi hic ipse sinu. B3. 35. Sendivogius treatise, about fire. The fire is of a double kind. The first is consistent with itself, and this very one confines the matter within its own bosom. This passage from a work by the artiste Michael Sendivogius is discussing a double thing or two aspects of a one thing named fire. This fire is said to be consistent with itself, which suggests it is constant or stable in nature. Furthermore, this type of fire is said to confine the matter within its own bosom. which might mean that it contains or retains the material substance within itself. B3, 36. Idem deare. Quatuor ex elementis primum nobiliusque cuncturum rerum vivida mater aqua est. Hanc super ipse feribator divinus andalmus spiritus. Ut Moses tradidit ipsi sacer. Spiritus est ignis liquidas, qui comove undas era secordum, cuncta creata trahant. 36. The same about air. Of the four elements, the first and noblest, the vivid mother of all things, is water. Over this was born the divine and nurturing spirit, as the holy Moses himself handed down. Spirit is the fire that stirs the liquid waves. Thus all created things draw their origin from the air. In this passage, we find an alchemical interpretation of the biblical account of creation, specifically the verse from Genesis, where the Spirit of God is described as moving over the surface of the waters. The text suggests that water is the first and most noble of the elements, and that all things have their origin in it. Water is the first and most noble of the elements, and that all things have their origin in it. The Spirit here can be seen as a divine force or energy that enacts change or transformation. This Spirit is described as a fire that stirs the liquid waves, possibly signifying transformative processes. Finally, it states that all created things draw their origin from air, suggesting that the process of creation or transformation involves not only water and the spirit fire, but also air. 37. Miraculum in conficiendo lapi philosophorum notatu dignum. Duradisse petra vivos educere rivos, si cupis alchemicum site magisterium ace petrum senesis, in felix hebetessis, ars chemiae amistas mysticum multa docet. Credibile est vulgaris quod caligit ocellus, adamant hoc verum permane artis opus. Aspis perduros silices, orox scatentes, glebas, nature multa stupenda vids. 37. A noteworthy miracle in making the philosopher's stone. Learn, hard stone, to bring forth living streams if you desire to master alchemical skillfully, and if you don't know the stone. You unlucky one will dull. The art of our art teaches many mystic things. It is believable what the common eye is dim, however. This truth remains the work of art. Look at the very hard flints, and overflowing with gold clods, a glob or clump of earth. You see many amazing things of nature. The passage gives the apprentice advice on creating the philosopher's stone. The speaker advises that one must learn from the hard stone, possibly referring to a starting material or a certain philosophical concept, and bring forth living streams, perhaps alluding to the transformative or life-giving powers of the philosopher's stone. There is a mention of the common eye being dim, perhaps referring to the unenlightened or those without the knowledge of our art. It could alternatively refer to the dimming of the two external eyes in order to reveal the gold of the third eye, or what may also be known in Eastern art as the secret of the golden flower, or something else altogether. The passage concludes by pointing out the wonders of nature and the extraordinary possibilities hidden in the ordinary hard flints and clods that are overflowing with gold. 38. Arsenic virtues. Arsenicum niveum corpus tibi destruit urae, eti redigit nigdos porsus id incineras. Natura hic ludit, ludat nete ipsa, cavito, ingenage, haud lufus sed tibi mortis erit. Scorpius ipsa venenata solo necat ictu, id quad amp, arsenicum prestat odor suo. 38. The virtues of arsenic. White arsenic destroys the body of your gold and turns it completely back into black ashes. Nature here is playful. Beware lest she play you. It will be by genius, not a game, but death to you. The venomous scorpion itself kills with a single stroke, which arsenic also achieves with its smell. This passage appears to be discussing the dangerous, destructive, and potentially deadly properties of arsenic. The speaker warns of the substance's power to transmute or degrade gold, often symbolically significant in alchemical texts, into black ashes, possibly a metaphor for destruction or a transformative process. The text also metaphorically equates arsenic with a venomous scorpion, emphasizing the fatal potency of both. The warning against nature's playfulness could be a reminder of the unpredictability and risks associated with alchemical experiments, or a broader philosophical point about the dangers that can lie beneath seemingly harmless or attractive surfaces. 39. Theophrastus de odem. Arsenicum nobis tincturam portigit albam id quad and albedo conspicis aer novo. 39. Theophrastus on the same. Arsenic brings us a white tint, what you see white in the fresh air or new air. The passage seems to discuss the use of arsenic in alchemical processes. Theophrastus, a Greek philosopher, is saying that arsenic provides a white tint, which can be observed, for instance, in newly whitened copper. Remember that in alchemical writings, a lot of symbols and coded language were used. Arsenic here might not refer to the literal substance we understand today as arsenic. Instead, arsenic might be a code for another substance or process in the context of our art. The white tint and newly whitened copper may symbolize the transformation or purification of substances in a non-chemical alchemical work. Please note, arsenic is an element known for its extreme toxicity and consequential health hazards. Historically used in various industrial processes and pesticides, arsenic's application in such contexts has been significantly diminished in light of the grave risks it poses to human health. Direct exposure to arsenic, be it through inhalation, ingestion, or skin contact, can lead to acute health effects such as nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Chronic exposure can instigate the onset of long-term health issues like heart disease, nerve damage, skin disorders, and different forms of cancer. In fact, arsenic is classified as a carcinogen, explicitly indicating its potential to induce cancer in living tissue. Even those with rigorous training in laboratory procedures, such as professional chemists, are advised to exercise utmost caution when handling arsenic. Any experiment involving arsenic, if attempted outside a state-of-the-art controlled laboratory environment equipped PED with proper ventilation systems, personal protective equipment, PPE, and stringent safety protocols, could potentially lead to severe harm or even fatality. It's essential to note that when historical texts, particularly those of our art, mention arsenic, it might not literally refer to the element we understand today as arsenic. Artists often use coded language or metaphors to explain their processes. Therefore, arsenic might represent another substance or concept entirely. The risks associated with arsenic are significant and should not be understated. Studying the historical references to this element is an academic exercise, not a prompt for experimental replication in the modern era. As with dangerous activities like surgery or deep-sea diving, mentorship and guidance from an experienced professional are critical. Even professional chemists must respect the inherent dangers of working with substances like arsenic, and any interaction with such materials should be done under the strictest safety conditions. When possible, safer alternatives should be considered, and utmost caution should be exercised to mitigate health risks. The handling of arsenic is not to be taken lightly. The potential health hazards it poses must always be kept at the forefront of consideration. 40. Sendivogius tractatisi de Saturim, quando senex noster vorat argentonque crisonque ars dat nostra sua languida membra rogo, et siners coquit, oriferos, preventibus undis, exoritur sanans, hinc medicina, lepram. 40. Sendivogius treatise xi on Saturn. When our old man devours both silver and gold, our art gives his weak limbs to its own funeral pyre, and cooks his ashes, rich in gold, in boiling waves, hence arises medicine, healing leprosy. In this passage, an alchemical process is being described in metaphorical terms, which is common in alchemical texts. Our old man may refer to the artiste or to a particular substance or material in the alchemical process. The old man devours silver and gold, which likely refers to the process of alchemical transmutation of base metals into precious ones. The funeral pyre and ashes are symbols often used to represent the processes of calcination and reduction, or the process of heating or burning a substance to reduce it to its essential minerals. The boiling waves may refer to an aqueous or distillation process. The last sentence could be talking about the belief of artists that they could create a medicine or elixir with the power to cure all diseases, here represented by leprosy. 41. The calcination. Quam solvas, prius effices ex corpore calcium, caustica quo milius solvere possid aqua. 41. On calcination. Before you dissolve, you will make lime from the body so that caustic water can dissolve it better. In this passage, an alchemical operation known as calcination is being discussed. Calcination is the process of heating a substance, in this case, the body, to a high temperature but below its melting point, in the absence of air or oxygen, causing it to lose water or gases and/or to decompose. This process transforms the substance into lime, which is more susceptible to dissolution. The caustic water mentioned here may refer to some strong acid or alkali solution used in the dissolution process. This passage highlights an important step in alchemical practices, the transformation of substances through heat to make them more amenable to further manipulations. 42. Dissolution in genere. Uniti melius quo post incorpora solvas semen and damp, inclusum truder quod quo foras. 42. On the kind of solution. So that bodies can be better unified, dissolve, and push the enclosed seed outwards. In this passage, The author seems to be talking about the alchemical process of solution or dissolution. This process involves breaking down a substance into its constituent parts, the bodies and seed, through the act of dissolving it. The seed appears to be a metaphor for the essential or innermost part of the substance. The author suggests that through dissolution, the seed can be released or pushed outwards, presumably for further alchemical work. The meaning of this passage is that by breaking a substance down into its individual components, you can better understand its essential nature and manipulate it more effectively. This is a fundamental principle in alchemical thought, the belief in the potential transformation of matter. 43. De solutione auri, pater aquas fortes, reges resolvetur aurum, sed tibi quaerenda est unica materis. Provida quam nostrum natura cravit ad usum, de neve menantis more liquicit aquae. 43. On the solution of gold. Gold of the king is not dissolved by strong waters, but you must seek the unique matter, which our provident nature has created for use. It dissolves like water melting from snow. In this passage, the author discusses the alchemical process of dissolving gold. They note that strong waters, a term often used to describe acids, are not what dissolve gold. Instead, the author directs the reader to seek a unique matter created by nature. This unique matter, they claim, dissolves gold in the same way that snow melts into water. In our art, the ability to dissolve gold was thought to be significant because it meant you had discovered the universal solvent, or alkahest, a substance that could break down any material to its original form. The identity of this substance was one of the most closely guarded secrets in our art, with many texts, like this one, providing only cryptic hints. The description of it dissolving like water melting from snow is likely metaphorical, meant to convey the ease or naturalness of the process rather than describe a specific substance or method. It's also worth noting that the gold of the king could be a reference to the philosopher's stone or another key substance in our art, rather than literal gold. Alchemical texts are known for their metaphorical language and layered meanings, so this passage could have multiple interpretations. We know that elemental gold is dissolved by strong waters, and therefore this gold of the king must not then be elemental gold. 44. Raymondus Lully de Ferno vase igne. Unices artificis et furnace vasculabina, calax, and equisturca silicet ignis erunt. 44. Raymondus Lully on the furnace vessel fire. Let there be a single furnace for the craftsman, 2 vessels, lime, and indeed horse dung will be the fire. In this passage, the author is referring to alchemical apparatus and ingredients. The craftsman is the artiste, and the alchemical work requires a furnace and 2 vessels. The lime and horse dung are described as the fire, which may be a metaphor for fuel or catalysts in alchemical process. Raymondus Lully, also known as Raymond Lully, was a medieval writer and philosopher who wrote extensively on our art, among other topics. His works often describe the practical aspects of alchemical work, like the equipment and materials used. 45. Idiom de decoction. Solvir, sublimaire, coagulafundir, coctis uti, sunt chimici martisandam, artis opus. 45. The same Raymondus Lully on boiling. To dissolve, sublimate, coagulate, melt, and to use the boiled, these are the works of the chemist's hammer and art. In this passage, the author is detailing key processes within alchemical practice. The artiste is urged to dissolve, possibly to break down substances, to sublimate, to transition a substance from a solid to a gas, to coagulate, to transform a liquid into a solid or semi-solid, to melt, to transition from a solid to a liquid state, and to use what has been boiled. The reference to the chemist's hammer might represent the tools and techniques used in the practice of our art, and art symbolizes the artiste's skill and knowledge in these processes. Raymondus Lully, also known as Raymond Lully, was a philosopher and artiste from the Middle Ages who wrote extensively about his craft. His work often includes symbolic and allegorical descriptions of alchemical practices. 46. Theodor Materiae Morienus. Prima materis ingredum spargit odorem, assimilatur enum sape cadaveribus. Partere vero cum cessave labores, vix odor hoc nostra gratia illucerit. 46. On the odor of the material, Morienus. First, the material disperses an unpleasant smell. Indeed, it is often likened to corpses. But when the labors of Tartarus have ceased, scarcely any smell will be more pleasing than this. In this passage, the author describes the initial and eventual smell of the alchemical material during the process of its transformation. Initially, the material emits an unpleasant smell, compared here to the smell of corpses. However, once the challenging or Tartarian, a word derived from Tartarus, a place of torment in Greek mythology, labors cease, the smell becomes extremely pleasing. 47. Idem Detactu, materia mollis tactus, and major in illiquam latet and propria corpore mollites. 47. The same about touch. The touch of the material is soft, and greater in it than the softness that lies in its own body. The passage seems to be an observation on the physical characteristics of the alchemical material in question. Specifically, it describes the material as having a notably soft touch, suggesting that the substance may have a malleability or flexibility. The softness or gentleness described here is said to surpass that which is inherent in the substance's own body. 48. Arnoldus de ponder, unum si fuerit niveo de sulfur pondus, centria fermento pondera mixtatuo. 48. Arnoldus on weight. If there is one weight of snow-white sulfur, let there be 3 weights mixed with your ferment. In this passage, Arnoldus, likely referring to Arnold of Villanova, a notable artiste, seems to be giving a recipe or formula for a particular alchemical process. Snow-white sulfur likely represents an ingredient in a process, and then ferment refers to a catalyst or substance that promotes or instigates the change. The weights of 1 and 3 are the specific proportions for the ingredients in this process. 49. Separatio. Paragraphus repedit fundum, tria catera scandun, era si fuerint ipsa soluta simul. Quae nisi dissolvus quartus comitatur untis tres socios ignis fio fera flamma premet. 49. Separation. The heavy earth seeks the bottom, the other 3 climb air if they are themselves simultaneously dissolved. Unless you dissolve them, the 4th accompanies the going 3 companions, the wild flame of fire presses. In this passage, the writer describes the alchemical process of separation. Here, the 4 classic elements, earth, air, and the other 2 likely being water and fire, are described in a way that relates to their natural behaviors or properties. The earth is heavy and sinks to the bottom, while the other elements rise or ascend. The fire, as the 4th element, is presented as a force that exerts pressure. As an aside, there are multiple ways to achieve separation. It may be achieved through density layering, let it settle out, or spin it in a centrifuge. Separation may also be achieved by filtration, distillation, or a variety of other means. This particular passage suggests a process in which the elements are dissolved and then separated, with each going its own way according to its nature. Earth down, air, and the other 2, likely fire and water, up. This is what volatilizes into the top of the vessel. Ultimately, this passage implies that unless the elements are properly dissolved, they might not separate as expected, with fire potentially complicating the process. 50. De coloribus theophrastus. Puilat ex una candor, gratis, ruborg. Rasis as fermenta solent, hic variare duo. 50. On colors, theophrastus. From one root sprout whiteness, redness. But races is both ferments tend to vary this. This passage is attributed to Theophrastus, a Greek philosopher, and it mentions races, likely a reference to the Persian physician and artiste Razi, known as Rhazes in Latin. He was a famous Persian polymath, physician, artiste, and philosopher. His name is the Latinized version of the original Arabic name al-Razi. He made significant contributions to various fields, including medicine and our art, during the Islamic Golden Age, 8th to 14th century. The passage talks about the development of colors, specifically white and red, which could possibly be symbolic references to stages in the alchemical process. The last sentence implies that the 2 ferments or catalysts can change or alter the colors. In alchemical context, colors often represent stages of the process or transformations of the substance being worked upon. White and red, for instance, were common symbols of purification and perfection. The ferments, if interpreted as catalysts or agents of transformation, might alter the progression of these stages or the manifestation of these colors. 51. De multis in opera coloribus. Materia nostrae primus color ipsa nigredo, quam putrefacta suo porigit artifici. Nigredo cessat cum quadraginta dibus, tunc corvus propria considit ipsi manu. Prosolator ium peditentum candeis eils, exequiale melos cantat, scici pse sibi. Si melos hoc audis, credas mihi, certus in arte es, nemo extra chemicum percipit hoc melos. Hoc de consentu longus sermo est apud omnes, qui tradunt chimicae dogmata docta scholae. Chlorian insequitur signum, post hunc apiastra ad volat, and Paulo post rubicilla venet. Caec avis haud ultra falcons occupis horet ut phoenix nidum texit in ignis suum. 51. On many colors in the work. Our material's first color is blackness, which, when putrefied, it extends to its artisan. Blackness ceases after 40 days, then the raven falls by its own hand. The white bird awaits him slowly. This bird itself sings its own funeral song. If you hear this song, believe me, you are certain in the art. No one outside an artiste perceives this song. About this harmony there is a long discussion among all, who teach the learned doctrines of the alchemical school. The greenish yellow follows the swan, after him the little bee flies too, and shortly after the red finch comes. This bird does not fear the falcons of the fowler of its own accord, as the phoenix built its nest in fire. This passage seems to describe a sequence of color changes, represented by different birds, in the alchemical process, suggesting symbolic meanings. 1. Black, raven, often signifies the beginning of the work, known as the black phase, or nigredo. This is a stage of decomposition or putrefaction. 2. White bird or swan, known as albedo or purification stage, where impurities are removed. 3. Greenish yellow, greenish 1 or chlorine. Not a common stage in the traditional sequence, but might represent an intermediate phase. 4. Little b could symbolize transformation or the generation of something new and beneficial. 5. Red finch corresponds to the rubedo or red stage, a phase of unification and realization of the final form, the philosopher's stone. 6. Phoenix, a mythical bird that dies in flames and is reborn from the ashes, symbolizes the final and utmost stage of transformation, the achievement of immortality or spiritual perfection. 52. Pendecte chemica de coloribus, materia prior stater, sed candidus alter, tertius ipsi color sanguinis in star erit. 52. Pendecte chemica on colors. The first color of the material is black, but the second is white. The third color itself will be similar to blood. This passage outlines 3 main color stages of the alchemical process. 1. Black. This is often known as the nigredo stage, indicating the beginning of the work, and it typically represents a stage of decomposition or putrefaction. 2. White. This stage, known as albedo, symbolizes purification, where impurities are removed from the substance. It's a transition from the death symbolism of the black phase to a rebirth symbolism in the white phase. 3. Blood-like. This color might represent the rubedo or red stage. Rubedo in our art signifies the end of the great work, the achievement of the philosopher's stone. It embodies unification, enlightenment, and the transmutation of a base substance into a noble one. The reference to blood may carry a symbolic meaning of life, vitality, or the spiritual essence. 53. Hermes de coloribus est aliquid viridis color ast volquisque ruborum candidus ac nigersan in honore paris. 53. Hermes on colors. There is something about the green color, but everyone desires the red, the white, and the black are equally honored. This passage might refer to certain color stages in alchemical processes. Green. The mention of a green color could be associated with the green lion, which is a common symbol in our art. It represents a raw, unrefined substance that can be turned into the philosopher's stone. The green color often symbolizes a stage of growth or development. Red. The desire for red suggests the rubedo or red stage, signifying the completion of the great work or the achievement of the philosopher's stone. This stage is often highly desired, as it represents the final product of the alchemical transformation. White and black. The equal honor given to the white and black colors might reflect their importance in the alchemical process. The black stage, or nigredo, is often the initial phase, signifying decomposition or putrefaction. The white stage, or albedo, represents purification or a transition stage. Both are essential steps in the process. The phrase, "everyone desires the red," highlights the ultimate goal of the alchemical work, which is to achieve the philosopher's stone, often represented by the color red. 54. Depondea non mensura, frigoris est pondus tantum. Mensura caloris, humidicum sixis porsus utrumque, petan. 54. On weight and measure, there is only weight of cold. Measure of heat, both indeed seek the wet with the dry. In this passage, the author is presenting the classical theory of the 4 elements earth, air, fire, and water, which also correspond to the 4 qualities of dry, wet, cold, and hot. These fundamental elements and qualities were used to describe all matter in the universe. The statement, "there is only weight of cold," could symbolize the heaviness or denseness attributed to the cold, often associated with the elements of earth and water. On the other hand, measure of heat could be referring to the expansiveness or energy associated with heat, often linked with the elements of fire and air. The last part, "both indeed seek the wet with the dry," might imply the interplay and balance among these qualities. In alchemical thought, dryness and wetness, coldness and heat are qualities that can transform into each other through alchemical processes, representing the principle of balance and unity in the cosmos. 55. De salibus. Artis principium chemicae salfusiae primum artifices maridas non sinit esse manus o auriferum sulfur, nec non solidata metalla, dicitur in primum solvere materium. Sulfur mercurio pennis comburit, uti ultra inflammatudem possit habear locum. Mercurius fixus rubicundum tingere in aurum, quaequio, metallorum corpora fusa sola. 55. Concerning salts. The beginning of the art, chemistry, the first fusible salt, does not allow the artisan's hands to be wet. O auriferous sulfur, as well as solidified metals, it is said to dissolve into the first matter. Sulfur burns the wings of mercury, so that freely it may have a safe place in the flame. Mercury usually tints the fixed substances red into gold and the bodies of melted metals. The passage is about the crucial role of salt in the alchemical work. The fusible salt here refers to a substance that can be melted and thus transformed. Its role is emphasized by the mention that it does not allow the artisan's hands to be wet, likely symbolizing its ability to change the states of matter or transmute substances. The next portion of the text speaks of auriferous sulfur, which is often synonymous with the philosopher's stone. It is said to have the ability to dissolve all substances to their prima materia or first matter, a fundamental concept in our art referring to the original formless base of all matter. The third part of the text refers to the interaction between sulfur and mercury, both of which are often considered as essential elements in alchemical theory. Sulfur is said to burn the wings of mercury, possibly denoting the process of sublimation or purification. Lastly, mercury is mentioned to turn fixed substances red into gold, possibly referring to twirl friend, that concept of the process of transmutation. 56. Avicenna. Sal radix operis medium sal, finis atempic, sal solvet sulfur, mercurium, simul. 56. Avicenna. Salt is the root of the work, the middle and the end. Salt dissolves sulfur and mercury at the same time. Avicenna was a Persian polymath who made significant contributions to various fields, including our art. This passage refers to the importance of salt in the alchemical processes. According to the text, salt is described as being at the beginning, middle, and end of the work. This could symbolize the pervasive and vital role of salt throughout the entire alchemical process. In alchemical symbolism, salt often represents the principle of permanence, the body, or the material aspect of substances. The second line suggests that salt has the power to dissolve both sulfur and mercury. In alchemical thought, sulfur and mercury, along with salt, are often regarded as the three prime elements, or triprima. Sulfur represents the combustible component, also associated with the soul, and mercury represents the volatile component, also associated with spirit or life force. This dissolution refers to the breaking down of substances to their core constituents, a key aspect of the work. The goal of such processes would be the refinement or transmutation of these elements. 57. Sal urinae. Sal quod in urina jungit tibi corporabina qui curat hoce salem sumata is Armenian. 57. Salt of urine. The salt that is in urine it binds for you two bodies. He who lacks this salt may take Armenian salt. In the alchemical context, the salt of urine likely refers to the material extracted from human or animal urine. Artistes often use this as a raw material in their experiments. It is said that this salt can join two bodies together, which can be seen as a metaphorical way of saying it acts as a binding agent or a catalyst in certain alchemical processes. Armenian salt is a term used in historical contexts, often referring to a kind of natural saltpeter or potassium nitrate. This suggests that if the artiste does not have access to the salt of urine, they can use Armenian salt as a substitute. The symbolism and terminologies used can vary among different alchemical texts and traditions. But the general idea is that both the salt of urine and Armenian salt have crucial roles in certain alchemical processes. 58. Sal communis. Sal communis in nullum putrescere corpus praeterquam nostri membra magisterge. 58. Common salt. Common salt allows no body to decay except the limbs of our mastery. In the context of our art, this passage is suggesting the preservative properties of common salt, sodium chloride, which is known to prevent decay in physical bodies. However, it suggests an exception for the limbs of our mastery, which might represent the materials or components used in their alchemical processes. These could still decay or change even in the presence of common salt. This might refer to the volatile nature of the substances involved in alchemical work, which can change despite the stabilizing influence of common salt. 59. De sale alumbrat, salvini, quercus, lapidum, nitric marisc, fossil sacil. Species has reverenter habe, additio. agis virginim melhis savonque suio, parida mercurio, vincula parata tuo. Naturasis apage procul hinc tetro cum stercor nequam, tibi productum nostra Apollo dabit. Artifex arbitror in ciferi manum cum smegmate, mixtum quos mercurius pingere sape sola. Natura. Quid pictura juvat, tincturam corridus omnes hermes quam solus possedet ipsi meus, qui peregrini nil adas, nil demseris unquam, extraquam feces, quas simul illo tenet. 59. Of the Alhambra salt, respect these types: wine salt, oak, stone, nitre, and sea, fossil salt. Hold these species reverently. Addition: add to this virgin honey and swine's fat awful bonds prepared for your mercury. Nature: be far from here with your foul dung, or our Apollo will produce it for you. Artisan: I guess the mana of Mars mixed with smegma, with which Mercury often likes to paint himself. Nature: what does painting help? You all seek tincture which only my Hermes himself possesses, to whom you add nothing a foreigner, nor ever take away, except feces, which he himself holds. In the context of our art, this passage is providing more instructions on how to prepare certain alchemical substances. The first part talks about respecting different types of salts. The addition discusses adding honey and swine's fat to prepare for mercury. Nature and artisan dialogues seem to warn against adulteration of substances and reiterate the importance of purity in alchemical processes. The nature voice speaks again at the end, emphasizing the value of the tincture, likely the philosopher's stone or a universal solvent, which only Hermes, an alchemical authority in this case, possibly symbolic of alchemical wisdom or the perfect balance of elements, possesses. Restated. 1. Respect different types of salts. This could refer to treating different salts, from wine, oak, stone, sea, and fossil origins, with care and acknowledging their unique properties. 2. Add virgin honey and swine's fat. This might suggest mixing these organic substances together. This might be intended to bind or otherwise react with the salts. 3. Remove foul substances. Be far from here with your foul dung could mean to keep the process clean and remove impurities. 4. Mix mana of Mars with smegma. Mana of Mars is a reference to iron. Mars was often used to symbolize iron in our art, and smegma could refer to some form of residue or impurity. The instruction might be referring to combining iron with another substance. 5. Aim for the tincture. This is a reminder of the ultimate goal of our art, the philosopher's stone or a universal cure, here symbolized by tincture. The importance of this goal is emphasized, and it's suggested that nothing foreign should be added or taken away from the preparation. 60. Desulfure. Arificum sumas neglecto corpor semen non multum moles corporis illa nocet. Omnia quae tangit, mineralia corpor frangit, restituent idem semen, and ipsi ruber. About sulfur. Take the golden seed, ignoring the body, for the body mass greatly harms. All the things it touches, it breaks mineral bodies, the same seed, and itself, the redness restore. In terms of meaning, the passage refers to the alchemical idea of golden seed, which is possibly the essence or spirit of gold. Ignoring the body might mean to focus on this essence and not on the physical form or mass of gold, as the physical form might interfere or cause problems in the alchemical process. The second part talks about the power of this golden seed. It suggests that this seed has the ability to break or transform mineral substances. Moreover, it has a restoring ability as well, symbolized by the color red, a common symbol in alchemical texts for the philosopher's stone or final transformative substance. In a different context, the golden seed could instead be interpreted as a reference to sulfur pellets or flowers of sulfur, which are characterized by a bright yellow or golden color. We leave this discretionary decision to the artiste. If this is the case, the alchemical metaphor would then suggest that one should focus on the elemental essence of sulfur, symbolized here as the golden seed rather than its physical mass, as the latter could pose challenges in the alchemical transformations. The passage then discusses the transformative power of this sulfur seed. It hints at sulfur's ability to alter or disrupt other mineral substances it comes into contact with. Further, the golden seed and the redness are said to have restorative properties, hinting at the transformative processes of our art, where substances are broken down and then reconstituted. The redness could be a symbol of the final product of the alchemical process, often associated with the philosopher's stone or the ultimate goal of the transmutation process. 61. Deforma andam, materia. Materis quavis formam cupide appetit ipsum non sic esse proprium, famina quec virum. 61. On form and matter. Any material eagerly desires its own form no differently than a woman desires her own man. This passage refers to the philosophical concepts of form and matter, which were extensively used in alchemical discourse. In the context of this text, the line is suggesting that all matter, substances, or materials has an intrinsic affinity for its specific form, shape, state, properties, much like a woman desires her own man. This can be interpreted as a metaphor suggesting that each substance inherently desires or tends toward its natural state or form. It is a philosophical reflection on the nature of substances and their properties. In our art, the transformation of substances, matter into new forms, is a fundamental process. The desire of matter to attain or return to its form could be seen as a commentary on the process of alchemical transformation itself, how substances naturally move toward their perfected state or form through the alchemical process. 62. De Mercurio. Mercurius terra subtili constat and alba versu aqua clara sulfura ac simul. 62. On Mercury. Mercury is composed of fine white earth, again of clear water and sulfur alike. In this passage, the speaker outlines the belief that Mercury is composed of three basic elements or principles often referred to in our art: earth, fine and white, water, clear, and sulfur. This perspective aligns with the alchemical understanding of the universe as comprised of various combinations of foundational elements. Mercury in alchemical terms often symbolizes the primal, undifferentiated substance from which all metals are thought to be formed. It does not strictly correspond to the physical element mercury, Hg, on the periodic table, but rather refers to a philosophical concept, the mutable essence of matter. In terms of meaning, this passage emphasizes the complex, multifaceted nature of mercury in the alchemical paradigm. By mentioning earth, water, and sulfur, it underscores the idea of unity and diversity, that one entity, in this case mercury, can contain diverse components, reflecting the interconnectivity and complexity of the natural world. 63. De materia prima. Materiis prima est duplex propiorca remota, mercurius propior, sic remota liquor. 63. On the prime matter. The first matter is dual, both near and distant. Mercury is near, and the distant is fluid. In our art, the concept of the prime matter, or prima materia, is fundamental. This is thought to be the original material from which all things are made. It's considered uncreated and eternal, representing the chaos or void prior to creation. In this passage, the prime matter is described as dual, both near and distant. The near aspect is represented by Mercury, again referring to the philosophical concept in our art, rather than the physical element. This indicates that prime matter is part of our everyday world and observable nature. The distant aspect is described as a fluid, which could imply that the prime matter is also transcendent and elusive, difficult to grasp, and beyond ordinary physicality. In summary, this passage seems to illustrate the paradox of the prima materia in our art. It is both manifest and hidden, present in the mundane world, yet also beyond or beneath the ordinary aspects of common understanding. 64. Mortificatio Mercurii. Accident duo Mercurium, sibi fide juncta, auxeris vices heg gerit, viri. C2. Mortificatio Mercurii facilis sed in auras, ut versum surgat difficilis labor est. 64. Mortification of Mercury. Two united by a pact kill Mercury. This one carries out the duties of a wife, that one of a husband. C2. The mortification of Mercury is easy but into the air. To rise again is difficult labor. The mortification in alchemical language refers to the process of killing or decomposition of a substance. It often indicates a purification process where the body of a substance is destroyed, allowing the spirit or essence to be freed. In this passage, Mercury, representing volatility or changeability, is being killed or mortified by two agents that are bound by a pact and carry out the roles of a husband and a wife. This might be symbolic of a union of opposites, a recurring theme in alchemical texts, also known as the chemical wedding or hieros gamos. The second part of the passage states that while the initial decomposition or killing of Mercury is easy, causing it to rise again, which likely refers to the recombination or resurrection of the purified essence, is a difficult task. This emphasizes the complexity and challenge of the alchemical work, which involves not just breaking down, but also rebuilding. 65. Mercurius est venenatus. Mercurius vivus dirum solet esse venenum, in sumptum latet protinus illa jacur. 65. Mercury is poisonous. Living mercury tends to be a dreadful poison. Immediately, if consumed, it harms the liver. In this passage, the text is referring to mercury as a physical element, not an alchemical symbol. Mercury, also known as quicksilver or hydrogerum, is indeed a dangerous element to humans if ingested or inhaled. Its negative effects on the human body, particularly the liver and nervous system, have been well documented. It's also worth noting that artists often worked with dangerous substances like mercury, and this passage is a cautionary note to practitioners about the literal dangers involved in their work. 66. Hermes de Mercurio. Mercurius nostra nihil est nisi turbidis aer, quam ventus chemicae sustulit artis opi. 66. Hermes on Mercury. Our Mercury is nothing but cloudy air, which the wind of chemical art has lifted. In alchemical symbolism, Mercury is one of the three primes or triprima, the other two being salt and sulfur. Here, the passage is likely referring to Mercury as the universal spirit, which is a common symbolic meaning in alchemical texts. Hermes is an important figure in our art, often identified with the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth, both deities of wisdom and writing. So, when Hermes talks about our Mercury, he's likely referring to an essential spiritual principle or essence in alchemical work. This passage conveys the alchemical mercury, representing spirit or the immaterial essence of substances, is akin to cloudy air that has been lifted or distilled by the art of our art, the wind of chemical art. This might indicate the transformative processes in our art, where raw, physical substances are purified and their spiritual essences are drawn out. 67. Mercuric operations variae. Mercurius solvit se coagulat ipsi, se desponsat, vigere sece solet. Ipse venenatus draco singula quaeque veneno oxidit. Donec tristia fata subit post obitum sua prastantissima pharmaca prebet in primis vero quando rubora cluit. 67. Various operations of mercury. Mercury dissolves and coagulates itself, it marries itself and tends to fix itself. It is a poison dragon that kills everything with its poison, until it meets its sad fate. After its death, it offers its most excellent drugs, especially when it glows red. The passage refers to the various operations associated with the alchemical symbol of mercury. Mercury is often used as a metaphor in alchemical literature for transformational processes, which involve dissolution, coagulation, conjunction, marriage, and fixation. The poison dragon can be seen as a metaphor for the volatile, destructive aspect of mercury, which has the potential to kill or dissolve other substances. The phrase about offering excellent drugs after its death may relate to the belief that after going through the process of dissolution and death, mercury, as an alchemical substance, becomes transformed into a potent healing substance or an essential ingredient in creating the philosopher's stone, especially when it glows red. The red color in alchemical terms often represents a successful culmination of the process or the attainment of the great work, the creation of the philosopher's stone. 68. De Mercurio Theophrastus. Mercurius nihil est nisi pura metallica spuma, quae virtut sui sulphuris alta petit abscissus penis repetunt sua claustra dracones, Golden Terrestri tunc habiter loco. 68. Theophrastus on Mercury. Mercury is nothing but pure metallic foam, which seeks high with the power of its own sulfur. With their wings cut off, the dragons return to their enclosures. They then rejoice to dwell in a terrestrial place. In this passage, Mercury is depicted as pure metallic foam, which signifies its volatility and transformative nature in alchemical operations. The power of its own sulfur could refer to the reactive or active properties of mercury, driven by its sulfuric component, according to the classical alchemical theory, which posits that all metals are composed of sulfur and mercury in varying proportions. The dragons, with their wings cut off, returning to their enclosures and rejoicing to dwell in a terrestrial place, can be interpreted as a symbolic representation of the process of fixation or grounding in our art. This involves making the volatile, symbolized by a flying dragon, into something fixed and stable, symbolized by a terrestrial dwelling dragon. This could also suggest the conversion of the volatile mercury into a fixed substance. 69. Mercury praeparatio. Mercurius vivus nocet. AF direta vivus amator sanguine detento, itera tre rogo. Tartarus, infernus, Plutoni subdita regna, ista vices passunt sustinuis rogi. Quando lut meritus corpus procrimine painas, right lubens anime jungatur hoxi sue. Hoc anima, hoc mirum, proprio cum corpora gaude, quam q, perigino junger nemo potest. Ambo juncta simo corpus sunt glorificatum, quad physici magna sedulite petant. 69. Mercury preparation. Living mercury harms, but reborn is loved. Detain the blood, surrender the rest to the fire. Tartarus. Hell, realm subjected to Pluto. These can have sustained the vicissitudes of the fire. When the body pays deserved punishment for crime, properly the soul willingly joins this. The soul, this wonder, rejoices with its own body, which no one can join with a foreign one. Both joined together are the glorified body, which the physicians seek with great diligence. In this passage, the process of preparing mercury in alchemical operations is described. Living mercury could symbolize the raw, unprocessed mercury, which is said to be harmful. Its transformation, through the detention of the blood and the surrender to the fire, perhaps refers to purification and transformation processes in our art, such as distillation or calcination. The references to Tartarus, hell, and Pluto's realms, symbols of underworld and transformative heat, further emphasize the intensity of this process. The latter part of the passage uses spiritual or metaphysical metaphors to describe the union of the soul and the purified body, creating a glorified body, likely representing the alchemical goal of achieving the philosopher's stone or the ultimate transformative substance. This description emphasizes the spiritual dimensions of alchemical work, where the process of physical transformation is also seen as a process of spiritual purification and unification. 70. Mercurius redivivus. Fit tandem rediviva decem virtute virorum, hermaphrodita malus mortua vulneribus. Sic, viros nesseis, nihil est si caetera dicis, quod praeceptade to simul artis erunt. 70. Mercury revived. Finally, it becomes revived by the virtue of 10 men, a hermaphrodite dead from harmful wounds. If you do not know the men, nothing is if you learn the rest, as many precepts of God, so many will be simultaneously of the art. This passage appears to describe the alchemical process in which mercury is revived or transformed. The virtue of 10 men could be referring to certain processes, elements, or principles involved in this transformation. The hermaphrodite symbolizes the union of opposites, a common theme in alchemical literature, and implies the blending of masculine and feminine principles in the creation of the philosopher's stone, or the final alchemical product. The notion that it is dead from harmful wounds might be an allegory for the purifying trials the substance has undergone. The second part suggests that understanding these men or principles is crucial. If you don't know these principles, everything else you learn will amount to nothing. The statement, as many precepts of God, so many will be simultaneously of the art, draws a parallel between divine laws and the laws of our art, implying the spiritual or divine nature of the alchemical work. 71. Mercurius hermaphrodita. Hermaphrodita paret fit and ipsa purpera sescumensis, quad tempus reit notar scias. Namque properium celebres nisi mor decenti. Spesque, laborque, tuus porsus inanus erit, quo restauranter contracti corpus artis. Therme sint potus jusula salsa cibus, traditur hain versum matrix fecunda parenti, uti possit sobulum multiplicare suam, concipit absque, vira postac abi, imagine tantum, fit pregnans and sic virgo pudico peri. 71. Mercurius the hermaphrodite. The hermaphrodite gives birth and becomes a mother in 1.5 months, which time you know to duly note. For unless you celebrate childbirth in a fitting manner, your hope and your work will be completely in vain. For the contracted limbs of the body to be restored, baths should be the drink, salty soups, the food. From here, the fertile womb is entrusted again to the parent, so that it can multiply its offspring. Hereafter, she conceives without a man. From an image alone, becomes pregnant, and thus the chaste virgin gives birth. The hermaphrodite is a term often used in our art to symbolize the union of opposites, the coming together of the masculine and feminine, or the coalescence of sulfur, male principle, and mercury, female principle. In this context, the birth could refer to the transformation or transmutation process, wherein new matter or substance, the child, is produced. The timeline of 1.5 months suggests a specific duration or phase in the alchemical process that one should be aware of. The reference to celebrating childbirth properly and the need for baths and salty soups can be interpreted as the need for specific procedures or conditions to be met in order for the transformation to take place effectively. The latter part of the passage reinforces the concept of self-generation or self-reproduction, which is a key concept in alchemical works. The image of a chaste virgin giving birth further reinforces the idea of miraculous or profound transformation in the alchemical process. It's a metaphorical way of describing the process where new substances are formed without the introduction of external elements. 72. De tinctura aurea andam, argentea. Soldat solares, lunares lunicoloris arsenicum q vice, eq trias q juret. 72. Of the golden and silver tincture. The sun gives solar, the moon lunar colors, and here arsenic takes the role of both. This passage is about the alchemical concept of the golden and silver tincture. Sol, sun, and luna, moon, are traditional alchemical symbols for gold and silver, respectively. The sun is associated with the color gold, solar colors, and the moon with silver, lunar colors. Arsenic, a commonly used substance in our art, is said to take on the role of both gold and silver in this passage. This could refer to an alchemical process or a transformation where arsenic is used to mimic or induce the properties of both gold and silver. This underscores the alchemical belief in the ability to transform base substances into precious metals through the correct manipulation of the substance's fundamental properties. It is important to note that arsenic, while utilized in many historical alchemical processes, is highly toxic, and handling it requires extensive knowledge and precautions to ensure safety. 37. 73. De lapide triplici, C3. Tres lapidis sunt, atque celestres, ex quibus arte nostra confectum est omni magisterium mercurius triplex est. Primus calcinat, alter sublimat, prostat tertius his comes, sunt in aquae tres, solis lunae, mercury atque solum fluide causa pura aquae. 37. 73. Of the triple stone. C3. There are 3 stones, and these are salts, from which by our art all our mastery is accomplished. Mercury is triple, the first calcinates, the other sublimates, the third stands as companion to these. There are also 3 waters, of the sun, the moon, and Mercury, which alone are the cause of the previous water being fluid. This passage is about the concept of the triple stone in alchemical literature, which refers to 3 substances or principles central to the transformation process. The passage mentions 3 stones or salts, emphasizing that all of their alchemical mastery is accomplished through them. These stones may represent base substances or principles utilized in their processes. The mercury is described as triple, performing 3 processes: calcination, the process of heating a substance; sublimation, the transition of a substance from solid to gas without passing through a liquid phase; and the third as a companion to these processes, possibly indicating its role in facilitating these transformations. Next, the 3 waters are mentioned, attributed to the sun, the moon, and Mercury. In alchemical context, the sun often represents gold, the moon represents silver, and Mercury is a primal material. These waters might refer to solutions, liquors, or essences associated with these 3 symbols used in the alchemical process. The final line might suggest that the unique properties or actions of these 3 waters cause the fluidity of a preceding or initial water, perhaps highlighting the transformative properties these substances confer in alchemical practice. Note to reader, there is a typo here in the original Latin text. We have chosen not to correct it because we do not know that it was not intentional. Instead, let us bring your attention to the fact that the 73rd item is labeled in reverse as 37. We cannot speak to the reasoning behind this typo if it was intentional. 74. Clangor bucine. Argentum datu duplici discrimine vivum preparat hoc corpus, tingit, and illud ideum. 74. The blare of the trumpet. Living silver is given with a double distinction. This same thing prepares the body and tints it. This passage could be symbolically referencing alchemical processes involving living silver, likely a term for a certain stage of a substance in the alchemical operation, possibly in a purified or activated state. The double distinction might suggest that the living silver plays 2 roles or has 2 characteristics in the alchemical process. It is said to prepare the body and to tint it. This might mean that it is a substance used both to prepare or process the material, the body, as well as to provide color or tint to it. This could also imply a transformation or transmutation process, which are key concepts in our art. 75. De projectione and multiplication Aurelius in elucidario. Cap. 6. Tingere multiplicare reciprocus ordo laborum est, nonque uno possido, non proco alterum est. In comfort fabus constans tibi cynthia lumen quo suan perfecte tingere nemo potest. Mater lunamera sasasi cum overundas, cum simul inceptum Philosopher ambit opus, sal homini condimentum simulatque metallis, in chimia plurima sorte salis. Destruit andam, combinat sal distingit andam, aequit quad fluitant minere fit quoque sorte salis. Mercurius sidians vicinus, and acola lunae auxiliumque salis, solis itemque petit, quo capto fixus, tinctus emergitur undis, donec ege tandem rubra corona datur. Quater hanxasige gradus communicat almas, 75, of the projection and multiplication Aurelius in elucidario. Cap. 6. To tint and to multiply is a reciprocal order of tasks, for with one put, the other is not far away. Hence, Phoebus, sun, faithfully gives you Cynthia's moonlight, with which no one can perfectly tint. Mother moon of the sea, if she stirs the salty waves, then the sickle-bearer moon again simultaneously circles the started work. Salt is both a condiment to man and to metals. In our art, many things are made by the fate of salt. Salt destroys and combines, separates and equals. What flow from the minerals also happens by the fate of salt. Mercury, thirsty neighbor and resident of the moon, asks for the aid of salt, and also that of the sun, with which captured, it is immersed in the tinted waters, until finally a red crown is given to it. It shares this with its four generous companions. This passage seems to describe an alchemical process that involves the symbolic interplay between the sun, Phoebus, the moon, Cynthia, Mercury, salt, and their various transformations. The four generous companions may represent the four classical elements: earth, air, fire, water, or other key substances or processes in our art. The recurring theme of tinting and multiplication suggests an alchemical process aimed at transmuting or refining substances. The reference to a red crown at the end of the process likely refers to a successful outcome or goal of the process, perhaps a reference to the philosopher's stone, often associated with a red or golden substance. As always with alchemical texts, the language is metaphorical and symbolic, drawing on astrological, spiritual, and elemental symbolism. The actual chemical processes, if any, that these symbols refer to, are not straightforwardly interpretable in terms of modern chemistry. The author mentioned Aurelius refers to Raymond Lully, 122-133, and a philosopher and Franciscan tertiary from the Kingdom of Majorca, who wrote extensively on our art, among other subjects. The mentioned Elucidario might be one of his alchemical writings. Many of his writings are thought to be pseudo-Lullian, possibly authored by a son or a medical school that he founded. 76. Descrimen inter Mercurium Volgi and Philosophorum. Mercurius mira monstrum parvum fugit ignam, cum tam in ilia nihil sit nisi flamma ferox. Nam conviritur uti sulfur si preserit ignis, Mercurium Volgi flammula nulla capit. 76. Distinction between the Mercury of the common people and the philosophers. Mercury, a remarkable small monster, flees the fire, although it is nothing but a fierce flame. For it is burned, like sulfur, if the fire approaches. No small flame captures the Mercury of the common people. This passage discusses the difference between philosophical Mercury and the common or vulgar Mercury, the element as we understand it today. In our art, philosophical Mercury is not the same as the common Mercury element, quicksilver. In alchemical symbolism, Mercury is often associated or volatile properties and can represent both a material substance and a metaphysical concept. Here it's referred to as a remarkable small monster that flees the fire yet is itself a fierce flame, suggesting its paradoxical and transformative nature. The second part of the passage seems to suggest that while common Mercury will burn when exposed to fire, in the same way sulfur does, philosophical Mercury is not captured or affected by a small flame, perhaps suggesting that philosophical Mercury represents a concept or state that is not affected by physical or vulgar processes, like literal burning. This passage is a good example of how alchemical texts use physical processes and substances as metaphors for spiritual or philosophical transformations. It's important to understand that while these texts often reference physical substances and processes, their true meaning often lies in allegorical or philosophical interpretations. 77. Raymundus Lullius in Testamento. Tres chimia lapides, primus vegetabilis, alter esto animalis, post hunc mineralis erit. 77. Raymond Lullius in the Testament. 3 stones of our art, the first vegetal, the second animal, after this will be mineral. Raymond Lull, often Latinized as Raymundus or Raymundus Lullius, was a medieval philosopher who, among many other fields, was also known for his work in our art. In this passage from his Testament, he refers to the 3 stones or key substances of our art. These stones are classified into vegetal, animal, and mineral. The mention of these 3 categories reflects the belief in a connection between all life and matter in the universe, and they represent the 3 kingdoms of nature. The vegetal stone could refer to processes involving plant materials, or to the concept of growth and transformation found in the plant kingdom. The animal stone likely refers to substances derived from the animal kingdom, or to concepts related to the soul or anima, which were often associated with animals. The mineral stone would refer to inorganic matter, metals, or minerals, and processes associated with them. The progression from vegetal to animal to mineral might suggest a process of refinement or transformation, a common theme in alchemical texts. 78. De tinctura aurea andamp argentea, baby rebortuo, se Cynthia candida vestit, atamen haut similis hinc paret haec sobos. Poderis haec causa est, quo vincere Cynthia febu, assolet, hind matri, sedet, hae si, ipsi color. Fabus enim nunquam tingit nisi ror erubenti mercuri foriat sparsus ad ima sui. 78. Of the golden and silver tincture, with your blush, Phoebe Cynthia clothes herself in white, however, she does not bear similar offspring from this. This is the cause of the dust, by which Cynthia usually conquers Phoebus. From here, this very color yields to the mother. For Phoebus never tints unless he has been sprinkled with the reddening dew of Mercury at his very depths. Phoebe and Cynthia are alternative names for the moon, and Phoebus is an alternative name for the sun. Here, the author is using these names to describe an alchemical process involving golden sun Phoebus and silver moon Cynthia tinctures. The passage might be describing an alchemical process or transformation where the blush or redness of the sun, golden tincture, gives the moon silver tincture, its whiteness, perhaps indicating a purifying process or transformation of matter. However, the products of this transformation are not the same. She does not bear similar offspring. The dust, potterists mention, could refer to a specific substance or to a metaphorical residue or result of the transformation. In this context, Cynthia, the moon, is depicted as overpowering or conquering Phoebus, the sun, which could suggest a dominance of the silver tincture in the process. The last lines imply that the sun, Phoebus, cannot exert its transformative power, i.e. tint, unless it has been sprinkled with the reddening dew of Mercury. In alchemical terms, Mercury often symbolizes a transformative agent or process. Therefore, the use of Mercury's reddening dew may refer to a specific step or requirement in the alchemical process that enables the tinting or transformation of matter. 79. De tempore operis. Cynthia cum fibo lapidem gigno prediosum sed guadam longa temporis ambo mora. 79. Of the time of the work. Cynthia and Phoebus give birth to the precious stone, but both rejoice in the long delay of time. In this verse, Cynthia and Phoebus, representations of the moon and sun, or silver and gold in alchemical symbolism, are described as creating a precious stone. This is likely a reference to the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance in our art believed to have the power to transmute base metals into gold and possibly even grant eternal life. The long delay of time seems to suggest that the process to create the stone is not instant or easy. It may take a great deal of time and patience, reinforcing the belief in our art that transformations, whether material or spiritual, require a lengthy process. It is interesting that the verse describes Cynthia and Phoebus as rejoicing in this delay, suggesting that the time invested is crucial and even desirable, perhaps for the refinement or purification it allows. 80. De projectione. Expecta partum. Terram si videris ipsam pragnantam, natam lacte siva sobolum, fluxibilis donec violentum sustinet ignem, proegetun exir fusa metalla super. 80% about projection. Wait for the birth. If you see the earth herself pregnant, nourish the born offspring with milk, until it withstands violent heat while being malleable, then cast the elixir over the molten metals. This passage is discussing the final stage of the alchemical process called projection. In the projection phase, a small amount of the Philosopher's Stone, often called the elixir, is cast or applied to a base metal in order to transmute it into gold or silver. The first part of the passage seems to be using earth as a metaphor for the alchemical matter at the end of the process. If the earth, the substance being worked on, is pregnant, it's ready to produce the final product. The offspring being fed milk may refer to further nurturing or refining the substance in some way. The second part indicates that the substance must be able to withstand intense heat and remain malleable. This could mean the substance has reached a particular stage of resilience and flexibility. Finally, the artiste can cast the elixir over the molten metals. This might suggest the transmutation of lesser metals into gold or silver, which is the ultimate aim of many alchemical works. This instruction also implies that the created substance, or elixir, will affect the change in the base or lesser material, transmuting it into a higher form. 81. De tempore Johann Isaacus ex Phoebo, lunaque potest ars tota parari, tempore prolongo, sed tamen absque metu. 81. About time by Johann Isaac, the entire art can be prepared from the sun and moon over a very long time, but nevertheless without fear. This passage attributed to Johann Isaac speaks to the lengthy process of our art and the key components involved in it. Phaebo, the sun, and Luna, the moon, are often used in alchemical texts to symbolize gold and silver, respectively, which are essential elements in many alchemical works. The phrase "over a very long time" reaffirms the understanding that our art is a slow and patient process that cannot be rushed. It takes a lot of time to master the craft and perform the transformations that are central to it. However, the passage ends on a reassuring note, but nevertheless without fear. This may suggest that while the process is long, there should be no fear or anxiety associated with it. This could imply that with patience, perseverance, and a steady hand, the practitioner can trust in the eventual success of their work. Alternatively, it could also mean that the process, while lengthy, does not hold any danger if conducted properly. It encourages a mindset of resilience and confidence in the face of a long-term endeavor. 82. Ignis endam, azoth sufficient unicus espes, quem sumant bipedes tripedici, commandant, and sic unicus ignis erit. 82. Fire and azoth are enough there is only one foot, which both bipeds and tripes take. They command, and thus there will be only one fire. In this passage, the reference to one foot can symbolize a single path or method used in the alchemical process. The terms biped and triped are likely metaphors for different kinds of alchemical substances or operations, suggesting the diversity of elements or processes that rely on the same fundamental principles. The idea of them commanding signifies their active role in driving the process and causing transformations. The phrase "thus there will be only one fire" seems to indicate that regardless of the specific substances or operations used in the alchemical work, they all culminate in a single, shared process or outcome represented here by fire. In our art, fire often symbolizes transformative energy or process that drives the conversion of base metals into noble ones, or effectuates other profound changes. Hence, this verse seems to be saying that while various substances and methods can be employed in the alchemical work, they all ultimately partake in the same transformative process. The term azoth in the title is a term used in our art, representing the universal solvent or universal medicine, often believed to be mercury or some form of it. The statement, "fire and azoth are enough," could mean that these two elements or processes, the transformative fire and the universal solvent azoth, are sufficient for the successful execution of the alchemical work. 83. Avicenna de dissolutione materia, nunquam fructificat lapis, USQ, recederit in nil utisit aquae penitus, si voleo similis. 83. Avicenna, on the dissolution of matter. The stone never bears fruit until it is reduced to nothing, so that it is completely similar to water or oil. In this passage, the stone likely refers to the alchemical concept of the philosopher's stone, the legendary substance said to be capable of turning base metals into gold or silver and possibly granting eternal life. This could be an allegorical statement about the process of creating the philosopher's stone. According to the passage, the stone, or the material used in its creation, must first be dissolved or reduced to its most basic form, reduced to nothing, becoming a substance similar to water or oil. In alchemical terms, this suggests the idea of solve et coagula, a process of dissolution and coagulation, or breaking down and reforming, which is a common concept in our art. The transformation into a substance like water or oil likely represents the liquid state, in which substances can mix and react with each other freely. This state is often considered a crucial stage in the alchemical process, believed to allow for profound transformations to take place. Thus, the passage is suggesting that only after this dissolution and transformation process can the stone, or the alchemical work, truly bear fruit, meaning achieving the desired end result. 84. Bernhardus Trevisanus comes de pondere. Recurri sulfur pondus tibi conferat ipsum, cujus respectu pondus abessi necut. 84. Bernhardus Trevisanus count on weight. The weight of mercury's sulfur will itself confer on you, in regard to which weight cannot go astray. This passage may be interpreted from an alchemical perspective, where mercury's sulfur likely refers to the alchemical substances associated with the transformation processes in the creation of the philosopher's stone. In our art, mercury and sulfur represent philosophical principles. Mercury stands for the transformative agent and the measure of fluidity or volatility, while sulfur represents combustibility or solidity. Bernhardus Trevisanus, a famous artiste, is advising that the weight, or the measure of mercury's sulfur, will provide guidance in the alchemical process. The term weight here could symbolize the importance or influence of mercury's sulfur in the operation. The phrase "in regard to which weight cannot go astray" suggests that this measure or aspect of the process is crucial and cannot be ignored or misdirected. In other words, the correct use and understanding of mercury sulfur, its weight, is integral to the successful outcome of the alchemical work. 85. The triplici lapide. In tribus heribit, constans perfectio rebus, quae sunsal, sulfur mercurius que simo. 85. On the triple stone. In the three things constant perfection will adhere, which are salt, sulfur, and mercury together. This passage refers to the classical three principles of our art: salt, sulfur, and mercury. These principles are often thought to represent different states of matter or aspects of substance. They were widely used symbols in our art and represented not just physical substances but philosophical ideas as well. Salt represented the principle of solidity, crystallization, and the physical plane. Sulfur represented the principle of combustibility, the transformation, the soul of a thing. Mercury represented the principle of fluidity, transition, and the spirit. The line "in the three things constant perfection will adhere" indicates that the perfect substance, often interpreted as the philosopher's stone, depends on the right combination or interaction of these three principles. 86. Mercurius quid sit. Mercurius nihil est, nisi cauda capicu, draconis qui peritor veneris vim penna atq. Iovis nam fixus color est veneris, Iovis affugit alter. Potius grisius corporis est habitus. Acel caput operator, coda, terrae, ani tripla major fit polus ipse, solo sanguineum caput est, carnem tenet asec, cauda atq, caput massa est, famina cauda mane. Alta caput quaerit, sed cauda recumbit in imo atq, immoda jacet cauda, caput q, movit. Potius haec artis consumatissima summa est, ut caudam jungas arte suo capiti. 86. What Mercury is. Mercury is nothing but the head and tail of the dragon, who together penetrates the force of Venus and Jupiter, for the fixed color is of Venus, another escapes Jupiter. The habit of the whole body is gray. And the head is compared to the sky, and the tail to the earth. The pole itself becomes 3 times greater than the ground. The head is bloody, the tail holds flesh and bones, and the head is male, the tail remains female. The head seeks heights, but the tail lies down in the lowest, and the tail lies still, the head moves. The very consummate sum of all this art is that you join the tail to its head by art. Mercury in our art, here referred to it as the head and tail of the dragon. In alchemical symbolism, the dragon often represents the initial, raw, or chaotic material that is transformed in the alchemical process. Mercury in our art was considered the transformative agent, so it's not surprising that it's described as penetrating the forces of Venus and Jupiter. Venus could be associated with copper and love beauty, while Jupiter with tin and expansion knowledge. The colors mentioned, the fixed color of Venus and the escaping color of Jupiter, could symbolically represent different stages or aspects of the alchemical process. The habit of the whole body being gray could represent the starting material or the prima materia in our art. The head and tail being compared to sky and earth could represent the duality or polarity in nature, such as spirit and matter, or soul and body. The head being male and the tail being female further emphasizes this duality, and might be a reference to the union of opposites, a central theme in our art. The final lines speak to the goal of the alchemical art, to unite the head and tail, or in other words, to harmonize opposites and achieve transformation. 87. Dissoluzione ad amp, separation interior philosophicae. Finder mercurium quisquis volt solvat oportet, difficilis labor est illis, sed hic facilis, creditor experto facilis labor atq perito, diffugit ignaro porsus abi nebitro. Nam nihil est hermes fumus nisi conglomeratus quem vis compressit sulphurus, ace salus. 87. On the dissolution and separation of philosophical matter. Whoever wants to split mercury, it must be dissolved. This labor is difficult, but that one is easy. The work is believed easy by the experienced and skilled, totally evades the unskilled from the fire of the glass. For Hermes is nothing but condensed smoke which the force of sulfur and salt has compressed. This passage is advising on the process of working with the substance mercury within the context of alchemical work. The opening lines suggest that anyone who wishes to split or separate mercury must first dissolve it, which is described as a difficult task. The second part of the passage suggests that this process is easier for those who are experienced and skilled in alchemical work. This seems to indicate that knowledge and practice are crucial in this procedure, and without them, success may be difficult to achieve. The fire of the glass could refer to the heat used in the process of dissolution and separation, which is said to evade those who are unskilled. The final lines describe Hermes, another name for mercury, as nothing more than condensed smoke, which is compressed by the force of sulfur and salt. This could be interpreted in an alchemical sense, where mercury, sulfur, and salt are considered the three primes or triprincipia of our art. It appears to suggest that mercury, in its true essence, is an amalgamation of different forces or elements represented by sulfur and salt, and is not a simple element on its own. 88. De incertiti temporis in opere philosophica. Non dater exactum tempus, mensis vi, dies vi, huic operi, causus portus obi numeras. Nam locus atiu. Ignis variae solunt tibi tempus, sic vitra, sic servi, source glabor frequens, esci tres ununque, duos quocum putatanos, sed mensis alii tot numerare solunt. Silicet ut partus hominum variare vidimus, ars opus hoc nostrum sic variare potus. 88. On the uncertainty of time in philosophical work. No exact time, months or days, are given to this work, for countless reasons indeed. For the place and fire want to vary the time for you, so do the glass, the servants, and frequent chance and labor. There are those who count 3 in 1, also 2 years. But others are wont to count so many months. Just as we see the births of men to vary, so can our art vary this work. This passage discusses the uncertainty of time in alchemical work. It starts by stating that there is no precise duration, be it in months or days, for the alchemical process is due to numerous unpredictable factors. The place and fire may refer to the specific conditions under which the work is done, including the physical location and the intensity of the heat applied, which can influence the time the process takes. The glass and servants might represent the tools and people involved in the process, while frequent chance and labor may refer to the unpredictable occurrences and the amount of work required. The next part notes that some count the process's duration in years, while others count in months, highlighting the variability in different people's experience. The comparison of the variability of the process to the variability in human birth further emphasizes that there's no set time for these processes. Much like the gestation period can vary from one individual to another. In the practice of our art, like in many things in life, there are variables, many of them, and that they can affect the timing and outcome of the process, and these cannot always be precisely controlled or predicted. 89. Mercurius Pelicano comparator and serpenti. Elicit ut proprium pelicanus acumen rostri sanguinem, and hoc plus vivificer solit, Mercurii nostri sanguis sic rite paratus, dissectum corpus vivificer potest, naturam serpentis haber versus coit, and si quambis decissa sit, melior credit. D89. Mercury is compared to the pelican and the serpent. The pelican draws out its own blood with the sharpness of its beak, and it is accustomed to vivify its chicks with this. In this way, the blood of our Mercury, when properly prepared, can vivify the dissected body. Having the nature of a serpent, it returns into itself again, although it has been torn apart, and comes back better. This passage compares Mercury, in the alchemical sense, to a pelican and a serpent, two animals that have symbolic meaning in our art and mythology. The pelican, in medieval and alchemical symbolism, was believed to wound itself and shed its blood to feed and revive its young. The self-sacrifice and revival is likened to the process by which the blood of Mercury, referring to a substance derived from Mercury, can be prepared and used to rejuvenate or vivify a dissected body, possibly referring to an alchemical process where the substance is broken down and then restored. The serpent is a common symbol of cyclicality, rebirth, and self-renewal due to the shedding of its skin and its ability to coil onto itself. The text refers to the nature of a serpent as it returns into itself again. This is likely a metaphor for the process where the substance, although it has been broken down or torn apart, can reintegrate and become better through this transformation. D90. Divario projectionis modo ex Raimundo Lullio andam, biel penodo aportu Aquitano. Hermes progesic capit ad caudam bene fusam, est aliter sentit Lullius in chemisis. Progitius fundamentum super alterutrum q, sic tibi materiae, copia major erit. Incu, magis fugitivus, compitibus retenetur, edibus alterius, sedibus ac proprius. Propria namcu, domus vix naturalis habitur indigit andam, magno sepe laboratuo. Si quis homo generar cupit, non seminat iste in proprium corpus, sed quod ei simile est. 90%. On the various ways of projection according to Raymondus Lullius and Biel Penoto al Portu Aquitano. Hermes projects the head to the well-melted tail, but Lullius in his chemistry thinks differently. You may project the base on either of them, thus there will be a greater abundance of material. From this, the more fugitive one is restrained with shackles in the house of another in its own places. For its own house is hardly considered natural, it often needs your great labor. If a man wishes to generate, he does not sow into his own body, but into what is similar to it. This passage speaks about different methods of projection in alchemical processes, contrasting the views of Hermes and Lullius. Hermes' method is described as projecting the head to the well-melted tail. In alchemical terms, this could refer to the transmutation process where the volatile element, head, is applied or mixed with the solid or fixed element, tail. However, Lullius has a different approach in his chemical process. The text suggests the projection of the base onto either element, which will supposedly result in a greater abundance of material. This might be indicative of a different process, where a basic or foundational substance is added to either the volatile or fixed elements to enhance the outcome. The passage further highlights the challenges of such operations. It implies that restraining the fugitive volatile element requires substantial effort and might necessitate a different house or environment to be effective. This alludes to the precise conditions needed in the work for the transformation of substances. The last lines metaphorically draw an analogy between procedures and the process of generation in humans. It implies that successful generation or transformation, in an alchemical sense, does not occur within the same body or substance, but requires a similar yet different body or substance, possibly alluding to the mixing of different but similar substances. 91. Quod ars chrysopoia raro ex mutis libris, sed plerunc, a vivo praeceptor comprehenditur. In chimia libri palcos facere magistros, unius ab alterius capitat ore, manu. Lullius Arnoldo se praeceptor fator ad chemicas artes continuas viam, Angelici Thomas Nomen doctors habitur doctrina toto claris in orbe sua, Ilius Albertus Magnus praeceptor habentur hein chemicae celebres hausera artis opes. Morienus calid, totiam pathethra artem ignaris quambus tecta sit illisatus, ATU, Theophrastum docuit Trismosinus olum, hali rex Arabum sequoque, Morienum. Defecerit me rota DC scribere velum, authorum chemiae nemina quae q hodi. Traducibus Fredi chemicas qui funditis artes, perdicer sua sedulatate tamen, quas proprio nunquam potuissent deser ductu exisent annos, sancti noace tuos. 91. That the art of making gold is seldom understood from mute books, but mostly from a living teacher. In chemistry, few books have made masters. One had begun from the mouth, hand of another. Lullius acknowledges Arnold as his teacher, who continued the path to the chemical arts. Thomas of the Angelic is considered a doctor, his doctrine, famous throughout the world. Albertus Magnus is considered his teacher. From him, he had drawn the celebrated wealth of the chemical arts. Morienus de Calid had revealed the entire art, although it is well hidden from the unknowing. Trismosinus once taught Theophrastus, Hali the king of the Arabs, also Morienus. The day would fail me if I wished to write the names of all authors of chemistry today, who, relying on the translators, deeply learned the chemical arts. They learned, however, with their own diligence, which they could never have learned by their own guidance, even if they had lived. St. Noah, your years. Important are mentorships and direct learning in the art of chrysopoeia, making gold, or our art more broadly, asserting that books alone seldom make masters of the craft. A lineage of alchemical knowledge passed down through different masters. Lullius learned from Arnold, Thomas of Angelic, possibly Thomas Aquinas, gained his knowledge from Albertus Magnus. Trismosinus taught Theophrastus, indicating a chain of teacher-student relationships critical to the perpetuation of the craft. The passage then refers to Morienus revealing the entirety of alchemical knowledge to Calid, but notes that such knowledge remains well hidden from the unknowing, underscoring the esoteric nature of alchemical wisdom. Necessary is the role of diligent self-study, with the help of translations and understanding our art. However, it cautions that self-guided learning alone would not yield the complete understanding of the art, even if one had the longevity of Noah from the Bible. 92. Quod arcanum philosophicum non sit revelandum. Arcanum quisque socius alias revelat, tutus ab insidias vivere nemo potest. Exemplo nobis sit sendivogius olum, nam vulum falsiacus insidit ilimenis. Qui spolia ampla tulit, dederat procremam poenas, affixus crucibus trist pependit onus, ejus aduc facti plebs Württembergica testis, ascriptus crucibus testis erit titulus. Flora Theobaldus nobis exemplari senset, de Bragadino sic quoque, de Monacho, quae licet impropria speculari qui glabello qui sapit, Alterius crimi and cautis erit. 92. That the philosophical secret should not be revealed. Whoever reveals the secret to partners or others, no one can live safe from ambush. Let Sendivogius be an example for us in times past, for he fell into the hands of Wulffelsiac. He who took great spoils paid the penalty for his crime. Sadly, he hung attached to the crosses. The people of Württemberg are still witnesses of his action. The inscription on the crosses will bear witness. Theobald recounts more examples for us, thus also about Bragadino and the monk. Although each one may inspect them in his own book, who is wise will be cautious from another's crime. This passage warns about the potential dangers of revealing the secrets of our art, emphasizing that such knowledge should be kept confidential. This notion is illustrated through historical examples, underscoring the severe consequences faced by those who have disclosed such secrets in the past. Sendivogius, likely referring to the artiste Michael Sendivogius, is mentioned as a cautionary tale. He revealed his knowledge and subsequently suffered at the hands of the Wulffelsiac, perhaps an unknown party war-coded reference. His punishment, represented symbolically as being hung on a cross, serves as a lasting reminder to the people of Württemberg. The passage also references more examples, such as Bragadino and the monk, which are elaborated upon by Theobald. Although these specific references are not clear, they seem to underscore the overall message that revealing alchemical secrets leads to severe consequences. The final line suggests that although each person has the freedom to scrutinize these examples in their own book, perhaps a metaphor for personal understanding or experiences, those who are wise will learn from the mistakes of others and act cautiously. 93. Quibus cognitio lapidus philosophici data sit ex mente Aurelii Augurellii L2, alchemium nullus tractat fraudator iniquus, qui falsis alios ludit imaginibus. Absit decoctor velci velle arte fabrili, a turpi vitam conditione trahit. Dissidat procul hinc civis qui deditus urbi, mercibus ex alias quertet illucrum. Intactum quoque linquat opus mercator avarus, quem prius innumere concomitantur ops. Arsodit agricolas incactos mechanicos quic volant multas quaerere divinitias. Qui non musarum doctissima castra secutus, and putus dignum nominis esse Sophi, D2. And putus meritum physicorum hunc esse coronam, qui nuquam libros perdidisit physicos. And putas summum bona maxima fere Jehovam, is qui non dignisant meritic, satis, or comus lapis invitat tantum sapientes, queca deumvir religione colunt. Naturae qui volt abscendita multa videre conferat puxisse scriptac, quaeque legat. 93. To whom is the knowledge of the philosopher's stone given? From the mind of Aurelius Augurellus, Book 2. Let no deceitful swindler deal with our art, who plays with others with false images. Let there be no decoctor, or one who excels in craftsmanship, and leads a life of base condition. Let the citizen dedicated to the city depart far from here. He seeks profit from other merchandise. The greedy merchant also leaves the work untouched, whom immense wealth accompanies before. The art reproaches untrained farmers and mechanics, and those who want to acquire many riches, who has not followed the most learned camp of the muses. Do you think him worthy of the name of Sophi? Do you think this one deserves the crown of the physicists, who never thoroughly learn the physical books? Do you think that the greatest goods, the greatest, brings Jehovah to those who are not worthy and not meritorious enough? The golden stone invites only the wise, and those who worship God with true religion. Who wants to see many hidden things of nature? Bring yourself here and read all the written things. The understanding of the philosopher's stone is only accessible to certain individuals. More precisely, the author suggests that only those with true wisdom, devotion to God, and a deep understanding of nature are deemed worthy. The passage explicitly warns against fraudsters, craftsmen, city dwellers focused on commerce, and greedy merchants attempting to pursue the knowledge of our art for their gain. It discourages those who have not undertaken a scholarly pursuit of the arts, symbolized by the camp of the muses, those without a thorough understanding of physical sciences, and those who wish to acquire wealth without being worthy or meritorious. The reference to golden stone or auricomus lapis is presumably the philosopher's stone, which, according to the text, only invites the wise and those who worship God with true religion. Those who wish to understand the hidden aspects of nature are encouraged to engage in deep reading and introspection. Alchemical knowledge should not be sought for worldly or greedy purposes, but rather as part of a pursuit of wisdom, spiritual devotion, and understanding of nature's mysteries. It implies a moral and ethical dimension to our practice. 94. Quantum valit administratio lapidis philosophic corpore humano ex mente Aurelii Ortholani? Haec divina potus medicina fugere senectam, quae per se morbi totius instauratist. Separat superat pravum, renovatque caducum, tempori praestans orifera ille lapis. Exitat inatum quoque sapius iste vigorum, eti pellet morbos funditis inde procul, conservaque diu nitido corpore meo simul. Exicat manifacta, humecta endam, arita membra, frigida calfacit, and frigfacit calisa. Si morbus todos centum duraset in annos, huic tempus curae menstrua luna daret. Dimidium morbi, curae quoque dimidiatum, tempus habesi quis credidere chemisis. Tres guys, anni septem, sed in unicus annus, unum procura postulat ipsi diem. 94%. How much value does the administration of the Philosopher's Stone have to the human body from the mind of Aurelius Augurellus Ortholani? This divine medicine can drive away old age, which is like the epitome of all diseases. It separates, surpasses the wicked, and renews the weak. This gold-bearing stone excels in temperament. It also often arouses innate strength and drives diseases away from there completely, and preserves for a long time a shining body along with wonderful things. It dries the wet, moistens the dry limbs, it warms the cold, and cools the hot. If a disease lasted for 100 years, a lunar month would give time for its cure to this. Half of the disease, also half of the cure, has time if anyone believes the chemists. 3 days, 7 years, but also a single year, it demands 1 day for a cure. This passage is a testament to the perceived miraculous power of the Philosopher's Stone when administered to the human body. According to Aurelius Augurellus Ortholani, whose thoughts are presumably being quoted here, this divine medicine has the ability to drive away old age, which is described as the epitome of all diseases. The Philosopher's Stone is described as having a gold-bearing quality and an excellent temperament. Its beneficial properties include arousing innate strength, driving away diseases, preserving a shining body, drying the wet, moistening dry limbs, warming the cold, and cooling the hot. Furthermore, the passage suggests that no matter how long a disease has been present, even for 100 years, a lunar month would suffice for the Philosopher's Stone to cure it. The belief in the ability of the Philosopher's Stone to have the time needed for a cure is also expressed. 95. Quod philosophus didicere possit abisque alterius damo ex mente Aurelii Augurelli lib. Qui cupit alterius nimium dicere damo plurima damnaferat damnaque pluritegat. Obsque tamen damo dives magisi vitor, quisquis colligit obsculo. Qui trahidi propius prudens sign fraud communis quos petit argentum si veli ipsi crisum. Anua sentene supere quad pondera mensae sumptibus exigis temporis absque mora. Calidas hoc lucrum cum, passasoeribus octum sit, nullus furto condere jur potest. NB hic defiat octor anonymous, cujus carminibus, ad complendum centurium chemicum adere libi e chrysopoia Aurelii Augurelli atali sequentia, herosis veribus conscripta. 95. That a philosopher can become rich without the loss of another, according to the 95. That a philosopher can become rich without the detriment of others. From the mind of Aurelius Augurellus' book, he who desires to become excessively rich at the expense of others, may he bear many losses, and may he cover many more losses. However, without detriment, he seems richer, whoever collects riches without deceit. He who wisely, without fraud, draws from his own furnaces what he seeks, silver or gold himself, that the annual weight of 100 tables may exceed, with minimal expense, without delay of time. This gain, increased with its possessors from heaven, no one can rightly hide by theft. Here the anonymous author has finished. To his poems, to complete the chemical century, it seemed fitting to add the following from the Chrysopoeia of Aurelius Augurellus, the Italian, written in heroic verses. This passage is a commentary on the moral and ethical aspects of seeking wealth, particularly in relation to the alchemical practice. The first part warns against seeking to become excessively wealthy at the detriment of others, indicating that such an approach would only lead to many losses. However, it suggests that a person who seeks and accumulates wealth without deceit appears richer, not only materially but also in a moral sense. It advocates for an honest and wise approach to gaining wealth, especially when it comes to extracting precious metals like silver and gold from one's own resources. in this case, metaphorically represented by furnaces. Such honest gain, when blessed or increased by heavenly means, perhaps a nod to the divine or spiritual aspects of our art, is something that can't be rightfully hidden or stolen. Lastly, the note indicates that the anonymous author has finished his part, and it seems fitting to continue the chemical century with the heroic verses from the Chrysopoeia of Aurelius Augurellus, an Italian author. This suggests that the text may continue with the contribution of a different author or source. 96. The multiplication lapidus philosophici ex Aurelii Augurelli lib. 3. Hic ego non fictus, quae sunt tractanda figuris aliquar, and longus abducta ambagibus idem, quae quandam artifices ipsi solace fatinter consulto, tanquam veteris mandata sibile. Extremo huic igitur prudens nesciat labori, nam brevis ATQ, aris minime est, sed dividis usus. Argo velum primus, fulvo confunde metallo confecti pollum medicaminis. Igigeati. Pulveris actudum praesevim fere videbis. Bel gravidum protosimum comiersus bar hot facili, and multa extrusum collegeris arte, qui modus exilis, quae predem exegemus, extax precisatus, and fari non omnia parest, victu porde partem mox pulveris equam immis, ac illis lentum succende calorem. Ac geminosilis etiam simul ex scoc menses, quosirium spatio cunctum prodare calorem pervedas, qualam turnos miratus in annos. D3. Videris, ac brevi sumas, quae maxima longo tempor jam tot quaesisti sedulos arte, ique aeterum ace aeterum facias, quodias per actimite fuerit totis Varzilius, and ipsum pulverium excudes cumulum. Namque osius ipsi crescit, and hinc alium sumit, retinece priorum virtutum crescentem etiam, and nisi crater vonum est, illam adeo interdum pristis octoribus octum, ipsius utita nui projecta parte per undas, aquaris argentum si vivum tuum fort aequor, omnivel immensum vordimar possit in orum, Neptunus supradivos statissimus omnes tum fieri, and strato lucum neraides auro aer super, prosicante sol capios ceruliet, quo non alias color aptius auro haret, and athero qui plane convenit orum. 96. On the multiplication of the Philosopher's Stone, from Aurelius Augurellus, Book 3. Here I will not speak in false figures to be handled. I will reveal, covered in long circumlocutions, which the very craftsmen admit to have concealed deliberately, as if they were the commands of the ancient Sibyl. Therefore, do not yield to this final effort, for it is short and of little weight, but of rich use. So, first of all, mix with the golden metal a little of the concocted medicine, and that blessed. Immediately you will see the force of the powder before you, or when you have collected the heavy seed from pure gold not easily, and extracted with much art, a method from those which we have previously performed, is clear enough, and it is not right to say everything. Soon mix an equal part of the purple powder with it, and light a slow heat under them, and also boil the twin months together, so that you may see the whole series of colors coming out in space, which you, having wondered for 3 years, you will see, and in a short time you will take up what you have sought for a long time, with all your diligent art, and do this again and again, and as often as it. D3 will have been accomplished, so often you will beat its forces, and at you will extract the powdery heap. For it grows more quickly itself, and from this it takes another, and retains the former increasing virtue. And it is not vain to believe that it was sometimes so increased by the ancient authors that, projected by a small part of it over the waves of the sea, if the sea were living silver, it could turn all or the immense sea into gold, and Neptune would then become richer than all the gods, and the Nereids, playing on the spread gold, could go above, drying their hair in the pure sun blue, to which no other color is more aptly attached to gold, and to which gold fully suits the ethereal. This passage is about the alchemical process of multiplication, which is aimed at enhancing the potency of the Philosopher's Stone. It begins by acknowledging the cryptic nature of alchemical teachings, comparing them to the commands of the ancient Sibyl, and urging the reader not to give up on this final process. The text describes a method for multiplying the power of the Philosopher's Stone. A concocted medicine is mixed with gold, and then the process includes heating, boiling, and observing color changes over a period of time. The text then suggests that after following these steps diligently, the potency of the Philosopher's Stone will increase, and one will be able to extract more of it. The text suggests that the stone's power can be increased so much that it can turn the entire sea into gold, symbolizing an enormous potential for transmutation. Finally, it ends with a vivid image of the Nereids, sea nymphs, playing on the spread of gold, their blue hair drying in the pure sun, a color to which no other is more aptly attached to gold, and to which gold fully suits the ethereal. This serves as a poetic description of the transformational power of the philosopher's stone and the grandeur of the result. 97. De servando silentio en opere philosophico propter impendentia pericula ideum lib. 1. Illud sape etiam en primisitronque mon bone, si rata tibi contingat gratia coelo. Namque audiunde sibi nemos verit. Uli hanc vix insignius, charo fido sodali, nedum alias referis, ean et innocere jactes quaesieris, verum secreto in pector servans tecum habita. Amp. Tecum tantum ipsa arcana revolve. Id Paulo post. Namquem non prohibet rerum prudentia farique sibi continuo foren cum dicta nocebum. Tutus ab insidius quasi virtut tuere posset, qui prese feret secundare parvo divitias loculo ingentes, divus undic regum et regna surgunt, en obs opulentac sedon omnia. Tanquam illis sint unis, quae ecce minora, thesaurus igitur tantos componer sici jam potuit, mir sub amica silentia servet, quod quoque sesis and of possi. 97. On keeping silence in the philosophical work due to impending dangers from the same book 1. That too, I will often and first of all warn again, that, if the favor granted to you should happen from heaven. For no one hopes for himself from elsewhere. To hardly anyone would you hint at this to a dear and faithful friend, let alone tell others, nor boast that you know what you have known. But keeping it secretly in your heart, live with yourself, and only with yourself turn over the secrets. And a little later, for whom does not the prudence of things forbid to speak what have been told to him continuously, they will harm. Safe from snares by what virtue he could protect himself, who would bear himself to hide himself in a small place, riches, in a small box, huge, by which kings arise from everywhere and kingdoms and wealth. And all things rich yield everything, as if everything were less than those alone. So, if anyone could put together such great treasures now, let him wonderfully keep silence as a close friend, which you will also sharpen, etc. Secrecy and caution are required in the practice. This passage emphasizes the need for discretion and keeping the knowledge of the philosopher's stone to oneself. The individual who possesses this knowledge is encouraged not to share it even with a dear friend, and not to boast about it. The secrets are to be kept within oneself and contemplated in solitude. The second part of the passage emphasizes the potential dangers of speaking about the knowledge continuously. It also speaks metaphorically the enormity of the riches, knowledge, and potential power that the practitioner has, comparing it to a small box containing great treasures. The one who has such treasures should keep them secret and safe, indicating the potential risks and consequences of revealing such powerful knowledge. The term which you will also sharpen could refer to the refining or honing of the practitioner's skills or understanding. Thus, the work of our art is presented as an ongoing process that requires discretion, prudence, and self-development. 98. De servando silentio, in opera philosophico obi capochimistas. Ideum, ibidem lib. 2. S. Suspecta probus ars ipsa invisac multis, invisos etiam cultores efficit artis. Mendices adeo multi quocunque vagantur multac policiti vainque multa nec ipsi recever, nec est illis ia nocer promptum, directa, quae nos ducit, via porsis aberrant. Multos queen etiam insignes, and cauterodoctos vidicunta equidem tractare, and pendere magni, quaecunque ignarum probat assi vulgus. Quid, quiderit in omnes quae maxima turba est artifices, tanquam nihil hos interesit in illos, ace uno periter pendunt examen cunctos. 98%, on keeping silence in the philosophical work because of charlatans. The same, in the same place, Book 2. The very art is suspect and hated by many. It also makes the practitioners of the art hated indeed. Many liars wander everywhere, and have promised many things in vain, which many of them have not even known, nor is it easy for them to know, who stray completely from the straight path which guides us. Indeed, I have seen many distinguished and other learned men handle everything and value greatly, whatever the ignorant and ignoble crowd approves. What about those who mock all, which is the biggest crowd, artisans, as if nothing matters between them and the others, and equally they judge all in one examination? This passage is about the skepticism and mistrust surrounding our arte, largely due to charlatans who have misled others with false promises and inaccurate information. The writer states that many who promise knowledge about the philosopher's stone or physical transformation don't actually have such knowledge themselves. They are depicted as being off the straight path, meaning they do not follow the true principles of the craft. The text also points out that many knowledgeable and learned individuals value and engage with aspects of knowledge that are proved by the ignorant and ignoble crowd. This could be a critique of the way mainstream thinking or common people's approval influences scholarly pursuits, leading to a devaluation of our art and its practitioners. The passage concludes with a critique of those who mock the philosophers and holy physicists, artistes, and puffers alike, placing them all in the same category without differentiating between genuine practitioners and charlatans. The author emphasizes the unfairness of such a sweeping judgment, highlighting the need for discernment in understanding the field and its practitioner. Note, reader, there is a typo in the original Latin text in the word philosopher, misspelled philosopher. We have left this misspelling in the text as we do not know if it was intentional on the part of the original anonymous author of this treatise. 99. Divano caco chemicorum labore. Ideum lib w2. Superquid memorum longo detersa labor. Purgatosque sales. Postasque iai longa vifaces. Velquae atramente calenti excensa effundant gutas eas irbentis. Hinc solvant, iteronque vices, ac saepe resolvant. Dane de levant, iteronque terrant, mox figere tentent. Incelsem vertunt etiam, misoc vaporium sublime ferant tenuati corpus aram. Compositos varia vidas hinc late caminos innumeros, potidemque lutolita vitrea vasa. Quae sibi vertit feber argentarius usu, sordiusque aliae, quicquid fabrilibus artes exercent curis, nostris attribuere, suis insani assivere laboribus, aceta semper sulfur olant. Semper facium fuligine tincti horrendas atra simulant ab origine larvas. 99. On the vain labor of false artistes. The same, Book 2. Why should I mention sulfur long polished by labor, or salt pep, and cleansed salts, and toasted lees of long-aged Bacchus wine, or the inks which, heated, pour out red drops from a jar? From this they dissolve, repeat the cycles, and often they resolve, then they wash, and again they grind, soon they try to fix. They even convert it to lime, and with the vapor released they carry the aura of the attenuated body into the heights. From this you may see variously arranged paths, countless, and as many clay-bound glass vessels, whatever the silversmith turns to his use, and the dirtier things which other craftsmanlike arts exercise with care, they have attributed to our art, and to their mad labors they have added theirs. And so always they smell of sulfur, always with their faces stained with soot, they imitate terrible masks from black origin. Described here are the vain and futile efforts of puffers, false artistes, caco-chemists, or charlatans. These individuals are depicted as toiling away with various substances like sulfur, saltpeter, cleansed salts, and lees of long-aged Bacchus, likely referring to some form non-medicinal wine or vinegar, going through cycles of dissolving, washing, grinding, and attempting to fix or finalize their concoctions. The metaphor of carrying the aura of the attenuated body into the heights might refer to their attempts to transform base metals into gold or other noble substances. A key. Pursuit of our art. They are described as using many tools and methods akin to those of a silversmith or other craftsman, hinting at a misunderstanding of the nature and goals of true art. The final line suggests these pseudo-artists always smell of sulfur and have their faces stained with soot, imitating terrible masks from black origin. This could be an allegory for their corruption or deceit, as they masquerade as artists while engaging in pointless or misguided work, devoid of the genuine philosophical and transformative insights that true art is supposed to embody. Note to reader, a caco-chemist is a term used to refer to a pseudo-artiste or someone who falsely practices our art. It comes from the Greek kakos, meaning bad or evil, and chemist. So it's used to denote someone who is bad at chemistry or doesn't follow the true principles of our art, often involving misguided attempts to transmute base metals into gold, or trying to discover the elixir of life, without understanding or respecting the philosophical and spiritual dimensions of our art. The term is somewhat archaic and not widely used in modern parlance. Note to reader. In an attempt to clarify our arte, we suggest that the reader learn Latin and familiarize yourself with the works of Raymond Lully. Lully's Lullian tree or wheels offer a structured system of knowledge, presenting a logical framework for the true artiste to discern between fruitful and fruitless paths. The ad hoc experimentation by the puffer is replaced by a thoughtful, methodical approach in the Lullian system of combinatorics. The Lullian wheels facilitate the connection of various alchemical symbols, principles, and materials, allowing the artiste to make informed, calculated decisions. With this systematic approach combining study, prayer, and experimentation, the true artiste embarks on a purposeful journey, eliminating random stabs in the dark, thus enhancing the likelihood of discovering the grand secret of the arte. 100%. Miserando a TQ. Irido caco chemicorum affectu, atque usufructu. Nisi miseram magis affirms verestitor ulla matemalium, quamque externus alchemia verbis dietur obscurus cagens ambiguous erat avia per miseros cahit per iniqua sequentes, ac tendem ejectos in cacobarafer relinquit. Ut vidas quandoc bonum sua pradia sis videntem, patriasci domos, merciscu, repstas, fornices interversari, ac fallibus orum capter intenuem q. Nefaciro convertir fumam. Dubios, dumquerit, obs insanus, avitam, difficilum interia conjuncts maestissima vitam protrahet, illicrement noti, fit sordidus ipsi elevato, ludusca, patens. Amp, fabula vulgi, exodus acta probet, nunquam sapiens ea curat. No, truly you would state a more miserable business than what is called alchemy with foreign words, and concealing it with dark twists and turns. It wanders off the beaten path and drags the unfortunate followers through injustices, and in the end leaves them thrown into a dark abyss. As you sometimes see a good citizen selling his lands and native homes, and bought goods, working amongst the furnaces and with bellows seeking gold, and turning the substance into thin sacrilege, smoke, while he madly seeks uncertain wealth. In the meantime, his extremely sad wife drags out a hard life, their familiar friends cry. He himself becomes dirty and elevated, and an open game and story for the people. The outcome proves the deeds the wise never care for these things. Our final passage is a strong condemnation of the futile and reckless pursuit of alchemical transformation by those who are unprepared or misguided. The text paints a tragic picture of an individual who, in their obsession with finding the philosopher's stone or transmuting base metals into gold, squanders their wealth, alienates their friends, and brings despair to their spouse. Ultimately, their relentless and uninformed quest leaves them not just financially ruined, but also socially ostracized, a cautionary tale for the public. The wise, it suggests, would never engage in such a reckless endeavor. The outcome of one's actions are the proof of their wisdom or folly, thus the wise would not care for such reckless pursuits. Note to reader, what happens when you start at the 100 and read them in descending order? The odd and seemingly random letters included throughout the text here are located in the same places that we found them in the original Latin version. We do not know how these letters or variables were used. It is a mystery that we leave for you. Blessings on your journey and best wishes for peace profound. And please remember, when you translate these old books, they are more than just tomes. They are philosophers talking specifically to you from beyond the grave. They are talking specifically to you. Finis.